Chapter 1175, Observing the Star Jade Walls Again. Chapter 1175, Observing the Star Jade Walls Again. To promote either the speed sword principle or the yin-yang sword principle to the most powerful level. Then to boost the ancient god power to break through to the 4-star ancient god level. Among these two steps, the second step was relatively simple. The ancient god power in Jian Wushuang's body already reached a limitation, and it wouldn't take long before it to break through to the next level. The key was the first step, the improvement of his sword principles. The Star Jade Walls. Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly lit up. He was aware that there were 2 treasures on Star Island, with one of them being the Star Jade Walls. When he had been trapped on this island a long time ago, he had carefully studied the Star Jade Walls. At that time, they helped him immensely. However, he could not figure out the real mysteries in them because he was too weak. Now, however, his strength had already been improved a lot, so he probably could learn more things from them. He immediately came to the place where the Star Jade Walls were at. He directly walked into the pavilion of Sword Principle among those densely dotted pavilions. As soon as he entered the pavilion, he saw the jade walls on both sides of the hall. There were lifelike patterns carved on the jade walls. Each of them showed a person wielding a long sword to perform a kind of swordsmanship. To the naked eye, the patterns were identical. As a matter of fact, each of them contained an amazing swordsmanship. There were a total of 16 patterns on the jade walls. When I first saw the swordsmanships on the patterns, I felt they were extremely recondite. I wonder how will I feel now? Jian Wushuang smiled. He immediately sat cross-legged in front of one jade wall and began to study the first pattern. There was a middle-aged man who wore a straw rain cape and a bamboo hat on the first pattern. He wielded a long sword and cut a huge lake in half. Surprisingly, though his sword light had split the lake into 2, the lake did not ripple. It seemed that there was no force acting on the lake. The greatest benevolence is like water that tackles complicated problems in a very easy manner. His control of this power is really incredible. Jian Wushuang secretly exclaimed. When he saw this picture many years ago, he only felt that this swordsmanship was unfathomable. Without a doubt, it was still abstruse presently. Nonetheless, he could figure out some mysteries from it. Then he began to observe the second pattern. The more patterns he observed, the more shocked he would be. Today, his understanding of sword principles was much deeper than he used to be, so the things he was able to perceive from the swordsmanships increased. That was why he felt so astonished. This swordsmanship's effect is equal to the act of splitting the heavens. One can only perform it after mastering the most powerful sword principle. It's dreamlike and difficult to tell whether it is real or not. How weird it is. Jian Wushuang marveled at it while studying it. Each one of the 16 swordsmanships was so unfathomable that he simply could not master it. Even though he had mastered one most powerful sword principle, he was absolutely unable to display such a horrible swordsmanship. At this point, he shifted his gaze at the 9th pattern. The protagonist of this pattern was also the middle-aged man who wore a straw rain cape and a bamboo hat. He stood at the end of the dark void, and in front of him were several black-robed men. They sent forth an unfathomable aura that Jian Wushuang could not fathom out. The middle-aged man acted at this moment. He wielded his sword with a single hand at a great distance. There was no sword light or sword shadow, but the heads of those black-robed men flew outward quietly. The pattern disappeared immediately. Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank suddenly. That's swordsmanship. He immediately began to recall that sword movement. It gave him an unusually odd feeling. It's too fast for me to catch the sword light. Why did those black-robed men die? The middle-aged man just stood where he was without any sign of moving. How could it be so fast? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. It was indeed too fast. It was fast beyond belief. Jian Wushuang had created the speed sword principle and was skilled at speed. If he wielded his sword with all his might, he was confident that common Dao masters were unable to catch his sword light, but he must move close to them. Nevertheless, the middle-aged man in the pattern wielded his sword toward those men in black from a great distance. He killed his opponents at a distance of tens of thousands of miles, but Jian Wushuang could not capture his sword light. How could there be such a swift swordsmanship in the world? Jian Wushuang frowned and was astounded. He continued to observe the 9th pattern. He had carefully studied the previous 8 patterns. Although the swordsmanships on these patterns amazed him, he had not observed them a second time. However, he began to observe the 9th pattern a second time. He still could not figure out anything about it after that, so he watched it a 3rd time, the 4th time and the 5th time. In just a short moment, he had observed the 9th pattern for a dozen times. Only then did he find something special about it. Space-time. It's the space-time. Jian Wushuang looked up suddenly and roared deep in his heart. After carefully watching the 9th pattern for quite a few times, he finally found a slight difference. This difference lied in the space-time. It appeared to be an ordinary swordsmanship, but it affected the entire space-time when the sword was struck outward. To be precise, it kept the space-time from influencing the sword. That's exactly what makes that swordsmanship incredible. Jian Wushuang's eyes were wide open and his body trembled violently. I understand. I finally understand what overrides speed. It's the space-time. Speed, be it fast or slow, is restricted by the space-time. The higher level of the speed sword principle should be the space-time sword principle. It's not constrained by the space-time and can exert the speed to the extreme. A flicker of excitement flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. He never understood why the speed sword principle was merely at the creation level, although it was very arcane. He did not know what other power overrode the speed. Nevertheless, when he saw the 9th pattern on the star jade wall, he finally understood that it was the space-time. The real perfect speed could only be achieved when it got rid of the restrictions of time and space. That was the most powerful sword principle. Space-time sword principle. Chapter 1176, Space-time. Chapter 1176, Space-time. Since Jian Wushuang had found a way to upgrade his speed sword principle to the most powerful level, the following meditation would be much simpler. He closed his eyes before the star jade wall to recall the scene that the man who wore a straw rain cape wielded his sword to kill those black-robed men in his mind. To be precise, he was recalling the unfathomable and unrestrained swordsmanship. He calmed down and learned it carefully. The space-time was the most mystical power in the world. This kind of power was beyond the reach of human beings and even more difficult for them to grasp. Jian Wushuang was a Dao master who had self-knowledge. Neither did he expect to control the power of space-time, nor did he expect his swordsmanship to completely get rid of the restrictions of the space-time. All he wanted was to upgrade his sword principle to the level that could influence the space-time. Even if it could only exert the slightest influence on the power of space-time, his swordsmanship would undergo a qualitative change. That was the space-time sword principle he had been pursued. Nonetheless, it was easier said than done because this was an incredibly difficult and complex process. Jian Wushuang completely immersed himself in the study of the space-time sword principle. Time passed quickly. In the 138th year after Jian Wushuang had returned to Star Island, his body shook suddenly in front of the star jade wall. An immense amount of ancient god power surged out and condensed into his mid-brow slowly. Finally, the 4th quadrangular star formed there. He reached the 4-star ancient god level. Immediately after that, his body began to undergo tremendous changes. The 4-star ancient god level rivaled the human celestial master level. Don't forget that Jian Wushuang was an imperial god. Although he just broke through to this level, his ancient god power alone was even more powerful than the power of a celestial master at the exceptional realm. Coupled with his spiritual power and the 10 folds of power his blood-killing plate armor executed, he was on a par with a common universe master in terms of power. Previously, he was much inferior to universe masters in this aspect and could only bridge the gap between them relying on some secret skills, treasures, and the power of Tao. Now, however, his power was comparable with that of universe masters. Thus, his overall strength had been enhanced greatly. In the twinkling of an eye, he had returned to Star Island for 300 years. He opened his eyes and looked at the void in front of him. Some strange light could be seen flickering in his eyes. He slowly stretched one of his palms to strike the void. A sword shadow visible to the naked eye dashed out and influenced the surrounding spacetime. Although it moved relatively slow, it instantly appeared in that void. Seeing this scene, Jian Wushuang's eyes suddenly lit up. Previously, I mastered the speed sword principle and executed the swordsmanship, both fast and slow. In that way, I could only create an illusion, but I succeed in making the illusion real. Jian Wushuang smiled. He deliberately displayed a slow sword movement just now. Once it affected the spacetime and slightly reduced the restrictions that the spacetime exercised on the swordsmanship, the sword could move 10 times faster. And if the swordsmanship he performed was extremely fast originally, the speed of the sword could increase by more than 10 times after it affected the spacetime. Spacetime sword principle. It's the most powerful sword principle. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and his eyes were full of excitement. He had meditated in front of the star jade wall for 300 years and by learning from the 9th pattern, he finally created the spacetime sword principle. As he expected, once the spacetime sword principle could exert a little bit influence on the spacetime, it was the most powerful sword principle. Since then, after the coalescence sword principle, he created the second most powerful sword principle, spacetime sword principle. The spacetime is really a kind of incredible power. Combined with my swordsmanship, I have created the most powerful spacetime sword principle on the condition that I only knew a little bit about the power of spacetime. I cannot imagine how horrifying the spacetime sword principle will be after I completely master the Tao of spacetime. Jian Wushuang gasped in admiration. He was no longer the young man who didn't know anything before. His horizons had been broadened, and he knew how vast this world was. He was very clear that although he now grasped the spacetime sword principle, it was nothing serious compared with the entire spacetime Tao. Coalescence sword principle, spacetime sword principle. The only one left is the yin-yang sword principle. Jian Wushuang was full of expectations. He had mastered 2 sword principles of the most powerful level and a sword principle at the creation level. If others had achieved those, they would have started to try to integrate sword principles together and attain the immortal Dharma body to become a celestial master. Nonetheless, he was not in a hurry. He was a man of great ambition. Chances were that his 3 sword principles could all become the most powerful ones. He wanted to integrate them after he had elevated all of them to the most powerful level. Then he could obtain the unprecedented immortal Dharma body in the green fire world. In the eyes of others, this was absolutely a wild wish and something that could not come true, but Jian Wushuang did not think so. He was an inverse cultivator who possessed infinite possibilities. His strongest sword soul was awakened once. This meant he had great potential on sword principles. He had every reason to struggle for that. Even if he failed in the end, he just wasted nothing more than some time. But once he succeeded, how mighty the immortal Dharma body he obtained after integrating 3 strongest sword principles would be. Sunrise Sword Emperor, the one who had the potential to become a leader of the Green Fire Palace, had just integrated 2 strongest sword principles. That enabled him, a celestial master, to fight a universe master head-on and be more powerful than an ordinary universe master. However, he was merely an ordinary cultivator, not an inverse cultivator. Hence, once Jian Wushuang integrated 3 strongest sword principles, his strength would shock the world. Nevertheless, whether he was able to do that was still something unknown. He had created the 2nd strongest sword principle and his ancient god power had also been upgraded to the 4-star ancient god level. Furthermore, his overall strength skyrocketed. Apparently, he planned to get through the ultimate test presently. Through Lord Spirit Sound, the news about his plans spread all over Star Island very soon. Tao Master Kong Ming, Dao Master Thousand Water and several friends of him, along with many warriors, hurried in front of the Black Tower. Blood Mountain, there was still a huge gap waiting for you to bridge the last time you endeavored to pass the ultimate test. But you come here again only after 300 years. Do you have the confidence to succeed? Dao Master Thousand Water frowned and asked him. Chapter 1177, Progress. Chapter 1177, Progress. Many warriors on Star Island looked at Jian Wushuang. For them, 300 years was a short period, so they did not think Jian Wushuang could pass the ultimate test. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, "I'm not absolutely certain that I can pass it. It's only because that I've made some breakthroughs over the past 300 years that I come here to give it a shot. I did not expect Lord Spirit Sound to tell you about this." That explains the matter. Dao Master Thousand Water said, "You've made the right choice. At least you can know how close you are to pass the ultimate test." "Well, everybody, I shall take my leave." Jian Wushuang smiled and once again stepped into the Black Tower in the eyes of all people here. They were all waiting outside the Black Tower and discussing this matter with each other. Blood Mountain came out very quickly the last time he entered the Black Tower. Obviously, there is still a long way for him to go if he wants to pass the test. Even if he has made some breakthroughs over the past 300 years, he probably won't be able to make it. Yes, it's unrealistic for him to do that. But he should be able to stay a little longer in the Black Tower this time. Yeah, that will be great progress. The longer he stays there, the closer he is to pass the test. Time passed slowly in the midst of their discussions. 10 breaths, 20 breaths, 30 breaths. A half-quarter of an hour passed. However, Jian Wushuang still did not walk out of the Black Tower. This excited all the people present. Jian Wushuang came out of the Black Tower after 2 breaths last time. The longer he stays there, the more likely he will pass the test. Dao Master Thousand Water clenched his hands and his eyes were burning with excitement. Another half-quarter of an hour passed. Till now, a quarter of an hour had passed. At this point, Jian Wushuang walked out of the Black Tower slowly. Blood Mountain. Blood Mountain. The people waiting outside the Black Tower immediately rushed forward with an expectant look. "Sorry, I let you down again." Jian Wushuang forced out a bitter smile. "Failed again." Everyone present felt sorry for that, but they were not so upset as they were last time. After all, they witnessed Jian Wushuang's progress. A significant progress. Blood Mountain, you came out after 2 breaths last time you entered the Black Tower, but this time you stayed in the tower for so long. Did you nearly pass the test? Dao Master Thousand Water asked. Everyone else looked at Jian Wushuang with burning eyes. "I'll tell you the truth, guys." Jian Wushuang looked around. "The ultimate test demands me to defeat a formidable puppet fighter. I couldn't withstand his 2 blows last time I fought with him. This time, my strength skyrocketed and I was able to compete with him head-on, but I was still at a disadvantage. What matters is that I need to defeat him instead of fighting him. Therefore, there is still a certain gap that lies before me." Jian Wushuang was telling the truth. He had fought hand-to-hand with the puppet fighter who used a giant axe in the Black Tower. Since his strength skyrocketed, the giant axe could no longer exert any pressure on him. Armed with his swordsmanships, he was able to fight that puppet fighter head-on, but he was the underdog. After a fierce battle, he knew he could not pass the test, so he came out of the Black Tower. After the people present heard his words, their eyes sparkled. He was unable to resist 2 blows last time, but he was just at a disadvantage when he fought the puppet fighter head-on this time. How could he achieve such progress over the past 300 years? Haha, if he were given another 300 years, probably it's the puppet fighter who will be the underdog. If he makes progress at this rate, he definitely can pass the ultimate test. The warriors on Star Island were thrilled about that. If they had only seen a gleam of hope on Jian Wushuang, then he now represented their best hope. He made the impossible possible. "Well, everybody, let's go." Dao Master Thousand Water waved his hand and said, "Blood Mountain, just keep cultivating. It's okay if you can pass the test. Don't be eager for quick success and instant benefits. We can wait for you even if you need more time. After finishing speaking, Dao Master Thousand Water and other people departed. Jian Wushuang stood outside the Black Tower and had a strange expression on his face. As I expected, my overall strength is equal to that of a universe master at the peak level after I created the second most powerful sword principle and my ancient god power reached the 4-star level. However, the puppet fighter in the ultimate test possesses the genuine battle strength of a universe master at the peak level and is more powerful than me. I was at a disadvantage in the fierce battle, let alone defeat him. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He had tried his best to improve his strength over the past 300 years, but there was still a huge gap before he could pass the test. And then, if he wanted to advance his strength by leaps and bounds, it would be extremely difficult. I cannot find any way to improve the yin-yang sword principle currently. I have carefully studied the 16 swordsmanships in the Star Jade Wall but did not find any swordsmanship that is similar to it. I don't know how long I have to wait before I can upgrade it. As for secret skills, I cannot promote them either. If there is anything that still has the room for improvement in the short term, that must be swordsmanships. Jian Wushuang's eyes radiated a sliver of light. Swordsmanships. His current swordsmanships were brilliant and powerful, for example, the Heaven's Bane, the Bladed Surge, and the Death Shadow. However, with the improvement of his sword principles, he was qualified to create a more powerful swordsmanship. Moreover, although the 3 sword movements he had created were unique, they only had a single function, attack. If he could create a mightier, more unique sword movement and perfect his swordsmanships, then his overall strength would be improved drastically. Sword principles and swordsmanships are closely connected to each other. Since my sword principles have made a breakthrough, I have to find a way to design a more powerful swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands and a plan came into his mind. He immediately went to find Lord Spirit Sound. Lord Spirit Sound, there's something that I need your help. Chapter 1178, White-Robed Juing. Chapter 1178, White-Robed Juing. What is it? Lord Spirit Sound inquired. I want to communicate with people outside the stellar fog sea, can I? Jian Wushuang asked. The stellar fog sea was isolated from the outside world. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible to communicate with the outer world. You are the disciple of the star bloodline, so you are free to enter and exit the stellar fog sea without being restricted by its restriction. Naturally, you can send messages to outsiders. Lord Spirit Sound replied. Really? That's simple. Jian Wushuang smiled and then took out a token. 5 Palace Masters. He directly sent a message to the 5 Palace Masters of the Green Fire Palace. Jian Wushuang, what's wrong? Void Temple Master sent a message back. I have just made a breakthrough in sword principles and I need some manuals about swordsmanships to improve my swordsmanships. Jian Wushuang answered. Manual about swordsmanships? Void Temple Master wore a smile. This is simple. Our palace has been established on this battlefield for 40 million years. Therefore, in the Firepoint Exchange Office, there are plenty of such manuals and quite a few mirror images left by experts who major in sword principles when they performed swordsmanships. Since you need them, I'll sort some out for you. How many fire points? Jian Wushuang asked. No need for fire points. Void Temple Master said, in the Green Fire Palace, Palace Masters enjoyed special privileges. Ordinary Celestial Masters need to exchange treasures in the Firepoint Exchange Office with fire points, but as Palace Masters, we can just take them so long as we need. We can put things that we don't need there as well. You are already one of the Palace Masters, although we haven't announced the news. You surely can take the treasures in the Firepoint Exchange Office directly. Really? Jian Wushuang smiled helplessly. In this case, thank you for doing me this favor, Void Temple Master. Nothing. Tell me where you are now and I will send them to you personally in a few days. Void Temple Master said. 3 days later, Void Temple Master had already sorted out the manuals and sent them to Jian Wushuang. It was impossible for Jian Wushuang to meet him on the stellar fog sea. So, they met each other in a branch of the Void Temple. Jian Wushuang, I've just casually picked all this out. There are still a lot such manuals if you need more. Void Temple Master said. Enough, enough. Jian Wushuang continually shook his head and was shocked. Void Temple Master had selected a lot of manuals for him, including numerous images on which experts who specialized in sword principles displayed swordsmanships. It would take him thousands of years or even more time if he was going to study them one by one. They were all high-grade manuals about sword principles and were enough for him. After bidding farewell to Void Temple Master, Jian Wushuang returned to Star Island again. He sat cross-legged in the secret chamber and immersed himself in the study of these manuals. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. Jian Wushuang suddenly opened his eyes and slightly knitted his brows. Although these manuals and mirror images inspired me a lot and improved my understanding of swordsmanships, I still lack practice. If I want to create a more powerful swordsmanship, I definitely need to temper myself with fierce battles and time. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists and his body shocked suddenly. Swoosh! Another original body appeared beside him. When he was pursued by the 4 kings from the Jin Kingdom and helplessly entered the chilly Wind Valley, this original body was destroyed. However, he repaired it after hundreds of years. My first original body just stays here to meditate these manuals and mirror images, and my second original body might as well ventures in the outside world to temper his swordsmanships through battles. Jian Wushuang made up his mind. Go! Jian Wushuang's second original body immediately left Star Island. His second original body transformed into a white-robed middle-aged man who walked on the Void Continent and deliberately suppressed his aura at the Eternal Realm. He traveled around the world with a single sword. Celestial Sword Sect was a first-class force on the Void Continent. It had a profound foundation on the Void Continent and had existed for hundreds of thousands of years. It was well known for its swordsmanships. Countless warriors in this sect had been working hard on swordsmanships over hundreds of thousands of years. The 9-layered sword tower in this sect was very famous in the entire Void Continent. It was a cultivation sanctuary for people who cultivated sword principles. One day, a white-robed middle-aged man came to the Celestial Sword Sect with a long sword behind his back. My name is Juing. I heard that the swordsmanships of the Celestial Sword Sect are extraordinary, so I pay a visit here especially. The white-robed middle-aged man, Juing, said politely. Our sect always gives facility to cultivators who major in sword principles. Since you are a sword cultivator, please pass through our swordstone formation first. After that, we'll treat you as a guest and you are allowed to enter the first 6 floors of the sword tower. An elder of the Celestial Sword Sect said. Please lead the way for me. Following this elder, Ju Ying went into the Celestial Sword Sect. On the same day, he easily passed through the Swordstone Formation and then lived in this sect. He had just stayed there for 1 year. But within this period, he had continually challenged the top 10 guests in this sect and its 6 elders as well as a vice sect master. The 6 elders and that vice sect master were all Dao masters. Ju Ying only utilized the power of an Eternal Realm expert to challenge them from the beginning to the end, but all of them were defeated by him. Half a year later, this white-robed middle-aged man came to a lofty castle. I'm Ju Ying. I heard that Dao Master Tai Xian's cultivation on sword principles is excellent and your swordsmanships are outstanding, so I come here to ask for advice. The white-robed middle-aged man was still modest and polite. How dare you, an Eternal Realm rookie, to challenge me? You are digging your grave. Dao Master Tai Xian was furious and directly acted. Ju Ying still fought him with the strength of an Eternal Realm expert. Although he was defeated at last, he withdrew from the battle with composure. On an endless mountain that was covered by snow, there lived a top-rank 3 Dao Master who was also skilled at sword principles. The white-robed middle-aged man Ju Ying went to find this Dao Master as well. Jian Wushuang had 2 original bodies. His first original body stayed on Star Island to meditate and study manuals about sword principles and such mirror images left by other experts. The other original body transformed into a middle-aged man at the Eternal Realm who named Ju-ing to travel around the world and challenge experts who specialized in sword principles to temper his swordsmanships. Chapter 1179, 1,500 Years. Chapter 1179, 1,500 Years. Time passed slowly, but in the twinkling of an eye, Jian Wushuang had studied in the secret chamber for 1,500 years. The white-robed middle-aged man transformed by his another original body had also traveled in the outside world alone for 1,500 years. Coupled with the days he had stayed on Star Island, it was a total of 1,800 years. It was no big deal for experts in the Green Fire world, but it was quite a long time for Jian Wushuang. It was the longest secluded cultivation that he had experienced since he was born. His another original body finally returned to Star Island. At the top of a lofty pavilion, Jian Wushuang's two original bodies stood shoulder to shoulder. After 1,500 years of meditation and experience on swordsmanships, my two original bodies have made great progress in swordsmanships. But a period of time is needed to digest what they have learned. Jian Wushuang smiled and immediately integrated his two original bodies into one. He sat cross-legged and closed his eyes just at the top of the pavilion, an extremely conspicuous place. He wore a deep smile on the corners of his mouth. It looked unusually fascinating. Look, isn't that Blood Mountain? It's him. What is he doing there? It seems that he is cultivating. Have you noticed the smile on his face? Why did it make me feel so weird? Warriors who passed by the pavilion saw Jian Wushuang, but they did not disturb him. All of them could tell that Jian Wushuang was in an amazing state. Somewhere on Star Island, Lord Spirit Sound and a skinny elder sat face to face. The latter was transformed by Gu King. Gu King came out of Jian Wushuang's body after Jian Wushuang set foot on Star Island and did not go into his ancient god body during this period. At this moment, their eyes penetrated buildings and clearly saw where Jian Wushuang was at. That boy is undergoing metamorphosis? Gu King's pupils shrank. Yes, it's the metamorphosis on swordsmanships or mental attitude. It seems that he has benefited immensely from years of secluded cultivation. Lord Spirit Sound said. In this way, he will surely try to go through the ultimate test again after he finishes with his metamorphosis. And this time, the odds that he will succeed should be high. Spirit Sound, I should congratulate you in advance. Finally, there is someone who can pass the ultimate test after you have waited for so many years. Gu King looked at Lord Spirit Sound. I have stayed on this island for so many years and I'm tired of living here anymore. If Jian Wushuang really can pass the ultimate test and control the stellar fog sea, then I will be free. Lord Spirit Sound smiled. Apparently, she hoped that Jian Wushuang could pass the ultimate test. He won't let you down. Gu King replied smilingly. He had been with Jian Wushuang for so long and had a good understanding of him. He knew how great his potential was. Jian Wushuang alone sat at the top of the pavilion for half a month. Half a month later, he opened his eyes and stood up. My two original bodies has cultivated for 1,500 years and my swordsmanships have been greatly improved. Even if I continue to do secluded cultivation, the effect may not be so dramatic. That's not necessary. I can try the ultimate test of Star Island. He immediately went toward the Black Tower. Again, the news that he prepared to pass through the ultimate test spread throughout Star Island by Lord Spirit Sound. Everyone on Star Island was extremely excited. They had witnessed Jian Wushuang's horrible progress 1,500 years ago, and now, they believed he must have achieved greater progress. In the Black Tower. In the vast dark void, a burly man carried a giant axe on his back stood in front of Jian Wushuang. You are here again? The burly man glanced at Jian Wushuang. I was defeated by you the first 2 times, but this time, I will defeat you, Jian Wushuang said indifferently. Oh, you are quite confident. The burly man had a deadpan expression on his face. Although he was a puppet fighter, he had intelligence. He could tell that there was a great difference between the Jian Wushuang in front of him now and the one 1,500 years ago. Let's start. The burly man acted without talking any nonsense. He moved as soon as the giant axe appeared in his hands. Boom! The dark void at his foot cracked instantly. Like a shell, he immediately appeared before Jian Wushuang. Swish! Carrying an immense amount of power, a towering and eye-catching axe shadow flew outward. Apart from its fast speed, its power was also sufficient to make ordinary universe masters tremble. In the previous two battles, I suffered losses due to power, but this time, sharp light surged in Jian Wushuang's eyes. The moment he saw the burly man hacking the giant axe toward him, he held the Blood Mountain sword tightly and surges of power swarmed into the sword. The Blood Mountain sword quivered and suddenly chopped outward. Heaven's Bane! Jian Wushuang let out a roar. It was the Heaven's Bane. After 1,500 years of study and improvement, it was no longer the previous weak sword movement. A sword light dashed out. Although this sword movement was powerful previously, it failed to gather all the power in one place and release all the power in an instant. Now, however, although it did not appear to be so powerful, in fact, it gathered an immense amount of power in one place and could destroy everything. Boom! A loud bang was heard. Jian Wushuang stopped and the giant axe of that burly man moved backwards due to the impact. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently and his long sword left his hand at a top speed. A cold sword light swayed the moment it escaped from his hand and influenced the surrounding spacetime. It came in front of the burly man in a split second. The burly man waved his big hand and shattered it easily. Bright moon. Jian Wushuang's eyes looked as sharp as a blade. He shook his wrist and hacked out the Blood Mountain sword. A huge bright moon emerged before the burly man. The burly man took a step forward and struck out the axe held by his two hands. The moment the giant axe smashed the bright moon fell apart and formed numerous sword lights shooting toward the burly man. At the same time, Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword turned into a giant black dragon. Chapter 1180, The Swordsmanship Named Dawnlight. Chapter 1180, The Swordsmanship Named Dawnlight. Dragon Power. Jian Wushuang let out a cold snort and the black dragon transformed by the Blood Mountain sword immediately roared and dashed out. No sooner had the burly man warded off the sword lights all over the sky than the black dragon charged at him. Get out of my way! The burly man shouted and hacked the giant axe in his hands outward, quick as a flash. The huge and mighty axe shadow directly tore the black dragon open. However, there was a power hiding in this dragon. It suddenly released and made the burly man take several steps backwards. At this time, Jian Wushuang moved in a strange way and stared at the burly man. All of a sudden, a fierce wind blew. Spell of disturbance. Jian Wushuang continually wielded his sword. Sword shadows, along with the gale, formed a real storm that covered the burly man completely. Innumerable sword shadows attacked the burly man fiercely. All the sword shadows affected the spacetime and thus were incredibly fast. The burly man also tried his best to fend off the sword shadows with his giant axe. Clang, clang, clang. Sounds of collisions were heard continually. The burly man was trapped in the storm of sword shadows and looked terribly bad. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang emerged from the storm and his eyes radiated with sharp light. Triple waves. Swish. Swish, swish. 3 consecutive sword shadows broke free from Jian Wushuang's hands in the blink of an eye. Although they were merely 3 sword shadows, when they combined together, they were more like 3 waves rushing forward in succession. The burly man immediately resisted them. Rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat, rat-a-tat. As 3 deep sounds rang out, the burly man took 3 steps backwards. Every step was at a distance of 10,000 miles and smashed the void below him. After the burly man regained his balance, he looked at Jian Wushuang again. Although he still looked indifferent, There was a trace of horror in his eyes. After fighting with him for a short period, he was able to detect Jian Wushuang's power. Although it was not much better than that of 1,500 years ago, he had made great progress in swordsmanships. It was an immeasurably vast difference. Jian Wushuang himself was stunned as well. It seems that I have underestimated this puppet fighter. Jian Wushuang admired secretly. I have just displayed the swordsmanships that I have created over the years, however, I just barely gained the upper hand. Jian Wushuang executed a lot of swordsmanships right at that moment. All of them were created by himself these years. Among them, the Heaven's Bane, Dragon Power, and Spell of Disturbance acquired a substantial improvement from the original basis. The Dragon Power was the improved version of the Bladed Surge. It contained more than one wave of hidden power and was far more powerful. Likewise, the Spell of Disturbance was the improved version of the Death Shadow and was faster than the Death Shadow. It enabled cultivators to strike out the sword hundreds of times at one go. Each time the sword would influence the spacetime and contain horrifying soul attack power. Nonetheless, the burly man managed to withstand this blow too. The bright moon and triple waves were the swordsmanships that he had lately created. They were also fabulous. The burly man looked at Jian Wushuang surprisedly. Your swordsmanships are much better than before. With such swordsmanships, you totally can have the upper hand in the fierce battle with me and even suppress me, but they are not sufficient if you want to defeat me. The burly man said in a low voice. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. What he was required to do was to defeat the burly man if he wanted to pass the ultimate test. Though suppression and defeat seemed to be of a similar nature, there was still a huge gap between them, in fact. If this was all Jian Wushuang could do, he still couldn't pass the ultimate test this time. I have already said it before that I will definitely defeat you this time. I never break my word. Jian Wushuang said with a smile. So, what other means do you have? The burly man stared at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang smiled and did not deny that. He thought secretly, my two original bodies shared out the work and cooperated with each other over the past 1,500 years. They put all their energy into the study of swordsmanships. Moreover, I have an amazing gift in sword principles, and with the aid of so many manuals and mirror images, I surely have achieved great progress. The most important thing is that I have spent quite a long time to study them. It was his first time to cultivate for such a long time in the secret chamber. For him, this period was enough for a dramatic change to occur on his strength. However, he spent it just to study swordsmanships. So how great the progress he achieved on swordsmanships would be. And of course, this would never be all he could do. My biggest achievement these years is that I have created a sword movement coincidentally. Since I created it at dawn, I named it Dawn Light. Jian Wushuang said gently. Dawn Light. The burly man knitted his brows. Although Jian Wushuang had not acted yet, he had already vaguely felt how exceptional that swordsmanship was. Soon afterwards, Jian Wushuang took actions. He lifted the Blood Mountain sword with a single hand and looked quite casual. Right at that moment, the whole world was caught in complete darkness. There was not a little bit of light, just like the real night. Furthermore, no sound was heard, even the sound of breathing. Horrible silence pervaded there. Jian Wushuang held the long sword with his right hand and had no expression on his face. He struck the long sword outward the very next moment. A flash of dazzling light appeared immediately. It shone brightly above the sky, as if it was the first ray of light at dawn. It stood for infinite hope. When the burly man saw this ray of light, his pupils shrank. Silently, the dawn light came in front of him. His expression changed dramatically and his power surged out crazily. Quick as a flash, he waved his giant axe outward. He had done his best. Hover. Clang. A sound of metal collision rang out. The giant axe in his hands flew backwards due to the impact, and the dawn light hit him unimpededly. Luckily, he was a puppet fighter. If he was a normal human expert, even if he was a universe master, his body would fall apart under this impact. Boom! The dawn light swept around crazily with blasts of air. The dark void finally calmed down after quite a long time. Chapter 1181, Disciple of the Star Palace. Chapter 1181, Disciple of the Star Palace. Gu King was sitting with Lord Spirit Sound somewhere in Star Island, a mirror image before them. Naturally, it was that of Jian Wushuang's final test. At the start, both Gu King and Lord Spirit Sound could still remain calm even as they exclaimed in admiration when they saw Jian Wushuang displaying many different types of swordsmanship as he subdued the burly man. Suddenly, however, they saw Jian Wushuang strike with his sword again. It was the dawn light. Gu King and Lord Spirit Sound were stunned as they witnessed the move. That sword move, Lord Spirit Sound said, looking extremely shocked. That kid, Gu King said, his eyes brimming with radiance. If I didn't notice wrongly, the sword move he just made should be a unique skill, exclaimed Lord Spirit Sound in a low tone. It's definitely a unique skill. Even though its power can only be considered as ordinary, it can already be classified as a unique piece of skill, said Gu King as he nodded solemnly. How could a Dao master possibly come up with a unique skill? Asked Lord Spirit Sound, as she wondered how incredible it was. She was aware of how difficult it was to create a unique skill. It took millennia before a unique skill would be created by a celestial or even a universe master, much less a Dao master. How long had Jian Wushuang been cultivating his skills only thus far? There are countless universe masters in the eternal chaotic world, and if any of them came up with a unique skill and is moderately capable, he or she could already be considered as peerless. Such invincible universe masters are extremely rare, even in the vast eternal chaotic world. This kid, however, has come up with a unique skill of his own, Gu King secretly thought in admiration. In the past, I felt that his gift in sword principle was not on the same level as his father, even though he possessed great potential. After all, his father had the sword spirit body and was born to pursue the sword principle. Now it seems that his gift in sword principle is the same as his father, if not greater. His father spent exactly 100,000 years cultivating his skills in the space-time secret land, and even so, he only managed to create the dream-chasing sword principle by modifying parts of another piece of unique skill. That move was only borderline unique skill level and could not be considered as such. It's not on the same level as the dawn light that Jian Wushuang has created now. He's a true genius in the sword principle. I've thought too little of him in the past, Gu King thought. He was also shell-shocked. Gu King, to think you even congratulated me previously. It now seems that you should be the one who should be congratulated instead. It seems that you've found a good master. The potential of Blood Mountain is limitless, and as long as he doesn't die prematurely, there's a chance that he could achieve the skill levels of your previous owner, King Luozhen. At that time, you will also have a chance of restoring your strength to your peak level, said Lord Spirit Sound. Gu King could not hold in his smile. He felt absolutely blissful. Let's go. We should welcome him back, Lord Spirit Sound added. Jian Wushuang, who was still within the Black Tower, was already slowly sheathing the Blood Mountain sword. The burly man who had been challenging him bowed respectfully and then went off to the side to wait quietly on his own. Shortly after, a wormhole began appearing within the surrounding black void. Come, Blood Mountain, Lord Spirit Sound's voice traveled into the tower. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and stepped into the wormhole immediately. He saw Lord Spirit Sound and Gu King in his form of a skinny elder in the dimly lit Great Hall. Gu King? You can transform into human form? Asked Jian Wushuang as he looked at the elder in surprise. It was the first time he had seen Gu King in such a form. Humph. All exotic beasts can transform into human form as long as they are capable enough. It's only that most of them are unwilling to. As a plenilune, of course I can do that as well. I just couldn't be bothered to, grunted Gu King coldly. Jian Wushuang laughed controllably. Congratulations, Blood Mountain. From now on, you're a disciple of the Star Palace, said Lord Spirit Sound. Lord Spirit Sound, my real name is Jian Wushuang. Blood Mountain is just my alias, said Jian Wushuang with a laugh. Alias? That's unimportant. Anyway, it's a fact that you've passed the final test of Star Island. According to rules set up by the creator of the Star Bloodline, I have to give you 3 things. Lord Spirit Sound said. She then drew out 3 items. They were a gray light bead, a token, and a secret skill respectively. Firstly, Lord Spirit Sound passed the bead to Jian Wushuang, saying, "This gray light bead is the core of the stellar fog sea. All sorts of technique, such as restrictions within the stellar fog sea, is controlled by it. All you have to do is to allow it to recognize you as its owner. You'll then be able to control the entire stellar fog sea." "Oh," exclaimed Jian Wushuang as his eyebrows arched in wonder. Some time back, he had heard Lord Spirit Sound mention that anyone who passed the final test could gain control over the stellar fog sea, and now, the lives of those people who were trapped on the island were in his hands. Jian Wushuang immediately began cultivating his control over the sea. It went extremely smoothly, and it took only a while for him to master it. He also came to understand everything about the stellar fog sea, including some of its secrets, for example, what sort of restrictions it could impose, what unique spots there were, and even what sort of treasures were in it. "How can the stellar fog sea benefit me?" Jian Wushuang asked as he frowned slightly. "Our founder used it to pick his disciples, and it doesn't serve many purposes aside from that. By giving you control over the stellar fog sea, the founder wants to make it easier for you to get some of the treasures in the sea. Things such as the Star Jade Wall and the 12 secret skills can only be handled after you have control over it," said Lord Spirit Sound. "From now onwards, how you handle the stellar fog sea is entirely up to you. You can bring it along with you, and use it to imprison anyone that is not to your liking during your travels in the eternal chaotic world. If you don't want to do that, you can also leave it in this world. I have the Blood Mountain Sword, and it already grants me the ability to suppress. As such, I don't need the stellar fog sea. Let it remain here. The Star Island shall continue to exist. I will also not shift the opportunities in it away. Leave them to future practitioners," said Jian Wushuang with a slight smile. "Aside, I will also remove all fog and restrictions from the island, allowing everyone to have a chance to benefit from the opportunities within it. You're the owner of Star Island now and can do as you see fit," said Lord Spirit Sound with a laugh. She then brought the token before Jian Wushuang. Chapter 1182, Secret Skill of the Stars. Chapter 1182, Secret Skill of the Stars. "You should already be familiar with this token," said Lord Spirit Sound as she looked at him. "This is the token carried by disciples of the Star Palace, right?" replied Jian Wushuang with a laugh. When he first became an ordinary disciple of the Star Bloodline, he also received a similar token. It had many stars in it, and it also contained an extremely unique and strong aura. However, this token was obviously more precious than that of an ordinary disciple. After Jian Wushuang received the token, Lord Spirit Sound passed the secret skill to him. "Jian Wushuang, this is the secret skill of the stars, a technique left behind by our founder which only disciples from the Star Bloodline have a right to learn. This secret skill is one of the most powerful and valuable in our sect," said Lord Spirit Sound, her tone turning serious. "Secret skill of the stars?" asked Jian Wushuang, his eyes gleaming. The sect took its name from the stars. As such, one could only imagine how important the secret skill of the stars was to it. "What sort of secret skill is this?" Jian Wushuang thought. Jian Wushuang was feeling a little expectant as his soul power surged into the skill. Information came flowing toward him instantly. "What's this?" Jian Wushuang asked as he opened his eyes wide. He was completely in shock after browsing through the message about the secret skill. It was an extremely terrible skill, and it could even be considered as one that was against the natural order. This secret skill focuses the power of the stars and merges it with one's spiritual power. In this way, one's offensive power will greatly increase in a short period of time. The skill is divided into 3 scrolls. The first scroll will increase one's power tenfold and lasts for a couple dozen seconds. The second volume can improve one's power by 100 times, for 2 to 3 seconds. The third volume can improve one's power by 1,000 times for a strike. The simple introduction completely rocked Jian Wushuang's world. He had mastered similar skills before in the past that could directly increase his power instantly, for example, the Star River secret skill of the ancient god clan. That said, the Star River secret skill was a technique that just served to amplify his power. Once he had mastered it, the skill would passively increase his power even without him making any strikes. In the eternal chaotic world, this kind of power-amplifying technique is very common. All experts there have mastered some sort of similar technique. It was very common for them to increase their strength by even 100 times. It was also due to the popular usage of such skills that it did not bring many benefits to experts during a duel. But this secret skill of the stars was different. It was a terrible technique that gathered the power of the stars and combined it with the user's power, causing the user's attacks to undergo a total transformation. In nature, it was somewhat similar to the Divine Yin Thunder technique that Jian Wushuang was practicing. The Divine Yin Thunder technique, however, would not increase much of Jian Wushuang's overall power even if he completed mastery of it. Just by learning the first scroll of the secret skill of the stars, on the other hand, the Divine Yin Thunder technique could increase his power tenfold. This was 10 times we are talking about, thought Jian Wushuang. The offensive power of an ordinary universe master would be on par or even greater than that of a peak-level universe if he or she managed to increase it tenfold. It was beyond Jian Wushuang's wildest dreams that the second and third scrolls could increase his power by 100 and 1,000 times respectively. The flaw of the secret technique was that it lasted for only a very short duration when used. The power from the first scroll could last for a couple dozen seconds, a considerably longer time. The power from the second and third scrolls, however, could only last for 2 to 3 seconds and 1 blow respectively. The greater the power generated by this secret skill of the stars, the shorter it lasts, thought Jian Wushuang as he nodded. He could accept this fact as the benefits of the technique far outweighed its flaws. What do you think, Jian Wushuang? Asked Lord Spirit Sound as she looked toward him. It's really a terrible technique, Jian Wushuang replied as he clenched his fists tightly, his eyes glowing. Start practicing here. Both the Goo King and I will be your guardians, said Lord Spirit Sound. I'm also aware the power of the stars gathered by using this secret skill is a unique form of power. I may be plenilune and have great regeneration skills, but even I could not replenish such energy, said the Goo King. Does this mean that even if I master the first scroll, I can only use it for a couple dozen seconds no matter what? Asked Jian Wushuang with a frown. Yes, replied Lord Spirit Sound with a nod. Besides, you'll have to replenish whatever energy from the stars you've used up, and this process takes time. Before you replenish your store of energy, you won't be able to use this secret skill. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang could not help but feel surprised. This secret skill of the stars is indeed fearsome, and its benefits can even be considered as incredible. However, there are many restrictions for using this technique, Jian Wushuang thought. Jian Wushuang, you're now only at Dao Master level. Even by inverse cultivation, you'll at most only be able to master the first scroll, and even barely. As for the second scroll, don't even think about it for now, Lord Spirit Sound said. It'll already be great if I can master the first scroll, laughed Jian Wushuang, feeling satisfied. By mastering the first scroll of the secret skill of the stars, he would have a trump card that would grant him the ability to unleash 10 times his original power in a duration of a couple dozen seconds. Start practicing here. Both the Goo King and I will be your guardians, said Lord Spirit Sound. Right, replied Jian Wushuang with a nod. He immediately sat cross-legged within the palace hall and began practicing the secret skill of the stars. Just as Jian Wushuang was practicing his newly acquired secret technique, something was going on in the Green Fire Palace. A white-haired old elder was sitting alone with perfect posture before a chess set, cracking his head as to how to make his next move. But suddenly, muttered the elder as his expression changed. He stood up suddenly, a look of surprise in his gaze. Palace masters. the white-haired old man immediately summoned the 5 palace masters. They gathered in the majestic palace, the white-haired elder standing to their side, a look of worry on his face. "Look, palace masters." An image appeared immediately in front of him with a wave of his hand. The image showed a vast, black portion of the void. It was situated at the perimeter of the battlefield, but surprisingly, a huge portal was there without their knowledge. In the portal, they could vaguely make out an ancient spaceship. Upon seeing this, the expressions of the 5 palace masters changed as well. The thing that the Green Fire Palace was most worried about has finally happened. Chapter 1183, Swift Return. Chapter 1183, Swift Return. Jian Wushuang had already opened his eyes. "Is this the power of the stars?" Jian Wushuang asked. He could feel an extremely unique power coursing through his body. It was from the first scroll of the secret skill of the stars, and it took him 10 years to accumulate that amount of power. It took me 10 years just to accumulate this little bit of power from the stars. Furthermore, I'll only be able to use it for a duration equivalent to a couple dozen seconds. Does it mean to say that after I use it, I'll have to wait 10 more years to be able to use the same ability again? And this is just the power from the first scroll to boot, thought Jian Wushuang, secretly amazed. He would only be able to use the power gleaned from practicing the first scroll once every 10 years. As for power from the second scroll, he would need even more to cultivate and accumulate it, and the interval between each use would also be lengthier. Jian Wushuang guessed that it would take centuries or even millennia before he could utilize power from the second scroll for a second time. Just as he got up, he sensed something. A burly figure appeared directly in front of him. "Master," the figure said respectfully. The burly figure was carrying a giant axe. Jian Wushuang realized that it was the same figure that he had fought against during his final test. After Jian Wushuang assumed command over the Stellar Fog Sea, all of its resources were left to his control, including all of its treasures. Even though there were many treasures within the Stellar Fog Sea, they were actually just little trinkets left behind by the creator of the Star Bloodline, and Jian Wushuang was not exactly in awe of them. After all, he had seen those in the Fire Points Exchange office of the Green Fire Palace before. Jian Wushuang did not think too highly of the treasures within the Stellar Fog Sea, as even though there were some of them that were more precious, none of them could be of any practical aid to him. The only one which made him feel pleasantly surprised to own was the burly figure in front of him. The burly man was actually a puppet fighter, and he was the strongest of his kind in the Stellar Fog Sea. His strength was on par with a peak-level universe master. "Did you ever have a name?" questioned Jian Wushuang. "I'm known as Fu Yi," the burly man replied. "Fu," replied Jian Wushuang as he nodded slightly. "From now on, you'll follow me around." "Yes," said the burly man with the utmost respect. "Lord Spirit Sound," shouted Jian Wushuang again. The Gu King and she immediately appeared before Jian Wushuang. "Since I've cultivated the secret skill of the stars, I might as well go to see them in Star Island. They must be eager to see me," said Jian Wushuang with a laugh. In the next moment, Jian Wushuang and Lord Spirit Sound appeared on the tallest pavilion in Star Island. "Gather around, everyone," said Jian Wushuang casually. His voice, however, spread to all corners of the island. All of the warriors on the island heard him and came running toward the pavilion. In a short span, many people had gathered at the foot of the pavilion. Several of Jian Wushuang's buddies, including Dao Masters Kong Ming and Thousand Water, were also amongst the crowd, and they looked at him and gazed at him with uncontrollable passion. As early as 10 years ago, they had already learned of the news that Jian Wushuang had passed the final test. They had waited 10 years for him while he practiced the secret skill of the stars. These people were not concerned about the long wait. As long as Jian Wushuang was willing to let them go free, it was enough for them. "Everyone, now that the Stellar Fog Sea is under my control, I hereby declare that all resources on Star Island will be open for public use from this point onward. Those of you who wish to stay behind are more than welcome to continue your meditation. As for those that wish to leave, With a wave of his hand, a space wormhole appeared in the void beside Jian Wushuang. This space wormhole will lead you outside of the stellar fog sea. You can use it to leave this place, said Jian Wushuang with a laugh. Hearing these words, the crowd below immediately became excited and all of them were exultant. They had been trapped on Star Island for a long time and were treated like prisoners. Many of them had already become twisted and deranged from being held captive for such a long time. They had also lost all hope of escape. Now, finally, they could leave this accursed place. Ecstasy. Each of them felt an unprecedented ecstasy. They were also grateful to Jian Wushuang at the same time. Blood Mountain. Blood Mountain. The crowd below looked fervently at Jian Wushuang. They felt that he had done them a huge favor by releasing them from captivity after completing his final test. Seeing the scene below, Jian Wushuang only gave off a faint smile. Just then, Jian Wushuang. A message was sent directly to him, and it came from the Samsara Temple Master, one of the 5 great palace masters of the Green Fire Palace. The content of the message was very direct. It contained only 2 words. Return quickly. Jian Wushuang's expression immediately turned serious after he received the message. The 5 palace masters allowed me to roam freely on my own, as long as I did not easily reveal my identity. They promised that they would not ask me to return to the palace before I had the capability to become its leader unless something big happened. Now, something must have happened. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists tightly, his gaze extremely chilly. Immediately, Jian Wushuang had an urge to leave the Star Island. Lord Spirit Sound, Jian Wushuang said, I have something urgent to attend to and must leave immediately. Oh, she asked, her expression changing. I've already shut down all restrictions from the stellar fog sea. From now on, Star Island will no longer remain in isolation from the outside world. Anyone with the requisite strength can come here to seek for opportunities, Jian Wushuang explained. As for you, Lord Spirit Sound, you can remain behind if you want to. If you do, control over the island will still be retained by you. If not, you can always feel free to leave. I've gotten sick of Star Island after staying here for so many years. Now that I have a rare opportunity to leave, I'm definitely not going to remain behind. Why don't we do it this way? My original body will leave the Stellar God Sea to enjoy in other worlds, while my doppelganger will remain on Star Island and help you take care of it, said Lord Spirit Sound. Then I shall trouble you to do exactly that, replied Jian Wushuang gratefully. Immediately, Jian Wushuang left the Stellar Fog Sea with the Gu King and Fui. The Green Fire Palace, he thought. He had left the palace quietly to avoid anyone noticing, and now he was returning in the same manner. Within the towering halls, several Green Fire Palace masters, including Jian Wushuang, had gathered together. There was also a white-haired elder who was present. Holy Master Cloud? Asked Jian Wushuang in surprise as he looked at the elder. Jian Wushuang recognized the old man. He was a very ancient holy master and he had come from a time long before anyone currently in the Green Fire Palace. Even the Samsara and Void Temple masters were younger than him. Chapter 1184, Change in Situation. Chapter 1184, Change in Situation. Holy Master Cloud was born at the most ancient time when the Green Fire world had just been created. Before, Jian Wushuang had only heard of this most ancient holy master, and it was the first time he had actually laid eyes on him. Are you Jian Wushuang? Holy Master Cloud cast a friendly gaze toward Jian Wushuang. Not long ago, I hear that you've died. I was still privately mourning your death, but now I see that you're all right. I believe that the people of the Gold Kingdom will be pulling their hair out when they know that you're still alive. You're too kind, Holy Master Cloud, said Jian Wushuang, seeming somewhat humble. Well, since the 6 Green Fire Palace masters are present, let's talk business, said the Samsara Temple Master, his tone extremely serious. What happened, Palace Masters? Asked Jian Wushuang with a frown. Jian Wushuang, you're our trump card, and ordinarily I wouldn't disrupt you from practice, but this incident concerns the survival of the Green Fire Palace and perhaps even the entire Green Fire world, replied the Samsara Temple Master solemnly. It's that serious that it concerns our survival? Thought Jian Wushuang, secretly shocked. Look, Jian Wushuang, said Holy Master Cloud as he gently waved his hands. An image immediately appeared in the void at the middle of the temple hall. It showed a vast, black void with a huge portal. An ancient spaceship was traveling in the portal. What's this? Asked Jian Wushuang in surprise as he studied the image. This shows the void surrounding this battlefield and beyond the Green Fire world, replied Holy Master Cloud in a low tone. The void surrounding this battlefield? Jian Wushuang asked, his eyes turning chilly. There's a portal there? And there's also a spaceship flying toward us? Could it be that there's another force arriving in the eternal chaos world? Jian Wushuang knew that 3 batches of experts from other worlds had descended upon this battlefield after the birth of the Green Fire world. The first 2 batches of intruders were discovered and wiped out in time by the experts from the Green Fire Palace. The 3rd batch was the Gold Kingdom. Now, from the scene depicted in the image, there seemed to be another force arriving at the borders of the Green Fire world again. Another force? Said the Samsara Temple Master as he shook his head slowly. Jian Wushuang, maybe you don't know yet, but the space-time of the battlefield we're on is extremely unique. It's actually a huge space-time vortex. Space-time vortex? Jian Wushuang was extremely alarmed. Could it be that the battlefield we're on is wrapped within a huge space-time vortex? That's right, said the Samsara Temple Master with a nod. It's a vortex of considerable size, but the Green Fire world, this battlefield included, have not been in danger so far even though we're inside it. Such vortexes are extremely frightening, and experts from the eternal chaos world have tried to avoid it all along. Who would court death by trying to charge through it? It's also the same reason that for all these years, very few people have come to this battlefield. The last few huge forces, the Gold Kingdom included, stumbled into the vortex by accident and arrived at the battlefield after somehow managing to survive. So, that's what happened, said Jian Wushuang as he understood. No wonder the eternal chaotic world knew nothing about such a huge and valuable battlefield floating around here even after so many years. No real expert has even come here before. So, it turned out that this battlefield is situated within a space-time vortex. To the people of the eternal chaotic world, to encounter such vortexes would be akin to facing a natural disaster. Who would take the risk to go into one of his or her own accord? He thought. This vortex is akin to a protective umbrella for the Green Fire world. We could dominate this battlefield for so long because of it. Furthermore, many generations of experts from the Green Fire Palace have put in much effort and paid the price to integrate a huge formation in the void surrounding this battlefield into the vortex. This formation has been a pillar of support for the Green Fire Palace. Because of its existence, we can have real-time information once anyone steps into the battlefield, and we can get rid of him or her before he or she can even send out any message. It's also because of its existence that experts from the Green Fire world can leave the vortex to seek their fortune elsewhere. Now, the spaceship you see in this image has bypassed the need to reach this battlefield via the vortex by creating a portal between the void there and the outside world, said the Samsara Temple Master with a serious expression on his face. To achieve this feat, not only does the person or people involved have to be extremely powerful and have access to many resources, most importantly, someone on their side has to set up a formation within the void to receive them. An inside job, said Jian Wushuang, momentarily stunned. He realized who it was in the next instant, however. It's the Gold Kingdom. A few palace masters together with Holy Master Cloud all had ugly expressions on their faces. It was definitely not the work of an expert from the Green Fire Palace. None of them would spend so much effort and sacrifice so much to bring in force from the eternal chaotic world into the battlefield. As such, the perpetrators could only be the experts from the Gold Kingdom. That is to say, the spaceship is carrying reinforcements from the Gold Kingdom, said Jian Wushuang in a low tone. Yes, but to be more exact, they're the main body of the Gold Kingdom, replied the Samsara Temple Master. The main body? Asked Jian Wushuang, perturbed. The Gold Kingdom is a major force that has gained a firm foothold in the eternal chaotic world. Their monarch is a grand expert who has already surpassed universe master level and achieved leader level, explained the Samsara Temple Master in a low voice. 5 million years ago, the experts of the Gold Kingdom came to our world, but they accidentally arrived at this huge battlefield after going into the space-time vortex. After their arrival, their experts realized that this battlefield was a huge treasure chest and tried all means to destroy our green fire world so that they could have it all for themselves. Luckily, there were not too many of them, and even though we didn't manage to achieve a decisive victory in the life and death struggle with them, we still managed to withstand their attack. Now, however, the main body of their army is arriving on that spaceship. This battlefield is extremely valuable, and I bet the Gold Kingdom will send out many experts to secure it. It's a possibility that even their monarch could be coming himself. It's a crisis of unprecedented scale for the green fire world, and our biggest fear. We hoped that the Gold Kingdom would never be able to pinpoint our location after 5 million years, or that even if they did, the space-time vortex would serve as a deterrent. But who knows? Sigh, our greatest nightmare is finally upon us. Chapter 1185, Preemptive Strike. Chapter 1185, Preemptive Strike. The expression on Jian Wushuang's face turned exceptionally ugly after he heard what the Samsara Temple Master had to say. Jian Wushuang, if what the Temple Master says is true, then the Green Fire Palace alone would be hard-pressed to withstand the main body of the Gold Kingdom. The Gu King's voice rang out in Jian Wushuang's head. No one in the Green Fire Palace is a match for the monarch of the Gold Kingdom. Just him alone could destroy all the experts in the palace. Jian Wushuang's figure trembled. The Samsara Temple Master's right. This drastic turn of events would decide the survival of the entire Green Fire world. Is there really no way for the Green Fire world to resist, everyone? Jian Wushuang asked in a low tone. A way to resist? Of course, there is, replied the Samsara Temple Master in a chilly tone. 5 million years ago, then the experts of the Gold Kingdom came upon our land, and their combined might was much more than ours on paper. We gathered every able soul in the Green Fire world and managed to hold their attack off. Even though the situation this time is much more critical than the previous one, we still have a chance of survival. We need to work together, and if the entire Green Fire world unites, we still have a hope of surviving this crisis. The Temple Master's speech led a few who were present to nod. The experts who were gathered presently represented the upper echelon of the Green Fire world's combatants, and if even they had no confidence of winning, then the entire Green Fire world would have scant hope of surviving the onslaught of their enemies. The spaceship carrying the main body of the Gold Kingdom is still within the portal. The Green Fire Palace will set up a huge formation of experts there, and they will do everything in their power to hold up its advance. Even though they can't possibly hope to stop it, they can delay its advance for at least dozens of years, maybe even for centuries. This will buy us some precious time to prepare, said the Samsara Temple Master in a low tone. In addition, I've also come up with a plan after discussing with a few palace masters. I've called you over, Jian Wushuang, in hopes that you'll take part in it. Plan? Plan? Asked Jian Wushuang. The plan is for us to strike preemptively before the main body of the Gold Kingdom even arrives. We'll wipe out all of their remaining power and foundations left behind by the Gold Kingdom from this battlefield, the Samsara Temple Master said in an icy tone. Preemptive strike? Jian Wushuang was shocked at first but soon nodded solemnly in agreement as well. Indeed, if the main body of the Gold Kingdom could link up with their experts wandering in the battlefield and make use of the foundations set up by them, there would be no way of stopping them. If all those foundations were destroyed, however, it would inconvenience the main body when it struck. Just by destroying all the space wormholes, those special pockets of land that were controlled by the Gold Kingdom, scattered all over the battlefield, would seriously limit their movement. The plan is sound, but it will not be easy to implement. Even though many experts from the Gold Kingdom who remained behind on this battlefield have been killed in fights with our Green Fire Palace, there are still quite a few strong ones left. There are even a few universe masters from the Gold Kingdom here, and their strength is much greater than our own experts, said Jian Wushuang solemnly. Furthermore, the Gold Kingdom has even set up a base on this battlefield and placed many restrictive formations on it. If we wish to completely remove all of their foundations, we have to charge right into their base. How hard do you suppose that will be? We've discussed all these concerns of yours previously, the Tang Emperor said. The combined might of the Gold Kingdom that is currently in this battlefield is indeed no weaker than us, if not stronger. That, however, was when we were still not willing to fight to the death. Jian Wushuang, you think too little of the Green Fire Palace. We've been existing on this battlefield for more than 40 million years. How could the Gold Kingdom's history of a mere 5 million years compare to ours? Placing other matters aside, just the battle strength of our universe masters itself is already much stronger than that of the Gold Kingdom. What? Jiang Wushuang asked in surprise. He knew that the Gold Kingdom had 9 great universe masters in the past, and also peak universe master-level experts like the Red Snow King. The Green Fire Palace, on the other hand, only had 5 universe masters, so how could the Tang Emperor claim that their battle strength was higher than that of the Gold Kingdom? Jian Wushuang thought. Look, Jian Wushuang, said the Void Temple Master with a laugh. He then waved, and a man wearing a scarlet suit of armor appeared. And this is... Jian Wushuang said as he looked in surprise at the man in scarlet armor. He then immediately realized the figure's identity. A puppet fighter? Jian Wushuang asked, getting excited. And a puppet fighter at Universe Master level to boot. Yes, this is a puppet fighter at Universe Master level, replied the Void Temple Master with a faint smile. The Green Fire Palace has exactly 5 of such puppet fighters. Jian Wushuang's eyes immediately lit up. He could sense that the puppet fighter only possessed the battle strength of an ordinary puppet fighter. Compared to Fu Yi, the puppet fighter at peak universe master level he obtained from the Star Island, it was much less capable. Even so, it meant that the Green Fire Palace had the addition of an equivalent to 5 universe masters to their ranks. The battle strength of the universe masters of the Green Fire Palace has always been stronger than that of the Gold Kingdom. Furthermore, Heaven Shadow King was killed in the process of chasing after you. We also killed one of their universe masters by using the Celestial Master Golden Axe as bait. This resulted in the battle strength of our universe masters being much more than theirs. As for those formations in their base, we'll find a way to break them, said the Samsara Temple Master with a chilling laugh. Before, we did not have much confidence to completely eradicate all influence of the Gold Kingdom from this battlefield and had held ourselves back. We didn't dare to openly declare war. Now, however, in such a time of crisis, even if we aren't completely sure of ourselves, we have to act. The Gold Kingdom has forced our hand. Before the main body of the Gold Kingdom descends upon us, we have to find a way to get rid of their remnant forces in this battlefield. We have to destroy all of their remaining experts and even the foundations left behind by them. The desire to kill of everyone present was roused to a fervor by the Temple Master's speech. None of them would hold back when faced with such a hated enemy as the forces of the Gold Kingdom. This time, we only have one chance to accomplish our objectives. We can't allow the Gold Kingdom any time to react. As such, we have to give it our best shot. Jian Wushuang, you're a Green Fire Palace Master and possess Universe Master battle strength. You should join us, the Samsara Temple Master said as he gazed at Jian Wushuang. No problem, replied Jian Wushuang with a solemn nod. He gripped his palms tightly as well. None of the Palace Masters, including Jian Wushuang, needed much time to prepare. Very shortly, they set off for their destination. Chapter 1186, Peak Universe Master? Chapter 1186, Peak Universe Master. On a wasteland in the battlefield, something was going on. Jian Wushuang, the Tang Emperor, Sunrise Sword Emperor, and the Void Temple Master were waiting patiently there. Before long, the Samsara and Red Lotus Palace masters had arrived as well. Both of them had been wandering about in the battlefield. Previously, only their consciousnesses were present in the meeting at the Green Fire Palace. Now they had come in person. All here. The Samsara Temple masters surveyed their surroundings before speaking up. This time, all 6 of us Green Fire Palace masters will strike in unison. I've also brought the 5 Universe Master-level puppet fighters along with me. We definitely can crush the Gold Kingdom's base in one blow and kill all of their experts. Right? Replied the other palace masters as they nodded seriously. The Green Fire Palace had come prepared for today's battle. After all, the palace masters had wanted to get rid of their enemy's base for a long time now, but they did not have any good opportunities to make use of. Jian Wushuang, the Void Temple Master, said as he looked toward him. When you left the Green Fire Palace 1,800 years ago, you were already at Universe Master level. After all this time, with your talent, I believe that your skills have improved again, haven't they? The other 4 palace masters also looked at Jian Wushuang. I did make some improvements, replied Jian Wushuang with a solemn nod. I believe I'm on par with the Red Snow King now. What? The 5 palace masters exclaimed, taken aback with shock. Jian Wushuang had made the remark casually, but it had stirred the emotions of the palace masters greatly. The Red Snow King possessed peak universe master battle strength, and amongst the 5 of them, only the Samsara Temple Master was confident of being able to handle him. Jian Wushuang only possessed the skills of an ordinary universe master 1,800 years ago. After only such a short period of time, he now has the battle strength of a peak-level universe master. How is this possible? They thought. Jian Wushuang, are you saying that you are already on the same level as the Red Snow King now? Asked the Samsara Temple Master, a hint of doubt in his voice. Yes, Jian Wushuang replied, nodding gravely. This made the 5 palace masters even more surprised. Kid, I'm afraid you're not very or of the true strength of the Red Snow King. You just fought once with him on the battlefield, and he should have reserved some of his power that time. If he unleashes all of it, he would be stronger than any of us 4, the Tang Emperor said. I'm not too sure if he held back during that fight, but I've absolute confidence that I can match him currently. The outcome of a fight between us now will be hard to predict, replied Jian Wushuang solemnly. Oh, you're that confident? Remarked the Tang Emperor, a strange look appearing on his face. He knew Jian Wushuang fairly well and understood that he was not prone to talking big. If he was so confident, it was probable that he indeed possessed that kind of strength. If that were the case, his rate of improvement was incredible. Jian Wushuang, since you're that confident, why don't the 2 of us have a friendly duel right now? What do the rest of you think? The Samsara Temple Master began asking. That's good. We can objectively gauge Jian Wushuang's real strength in this way too, said Red Lotus. She was the first to agree. She had absolute faith in his word. Even though we're about to move against the Gold Kingdom, there's no hurry. I want to witness a test of skills between both of you, agreed the Sunrise Sword Emperor as well. The Void Temple Master and Tang Emperor also nodded readily. How about you, Jian Wushuang? Asked the Samsara Temple Master as he looked toward him. Since you're personally inviting me to a friendly duel, Samsara Temple Master, I'll not refuse naturally, replied Jian Wushuang with a slight smile. He knew that the palace masters had agreed with the temple master because they were somewhat doubtful over his current strength. He was not irritated by this fact. Please, Samsara Temple Master, said Jian Wushuang with a small laugh. The Blood Mountain sword was already in his hand. Be careful, replied the Samsara Temple Master with a light laugh as well. A black flame soon appeared above his palm. The fearsome heat generated by the black flame instantly turned the surrounding void to ashes. Jian Wushuang could also acutely feel the terrible power of the flame. Boom! The Samsara Temple Master took the initiative to strike first. With a huge stride, he appeared before Jian Wushuang. He formed a fist with his right hand and used it to strike at Jian Wushuang. Of course, it was also completely engulfed in black flames. It was a simple and unsophisticated strike, but the power contained in it could give an ordinary universe master the chills. Jian Wushuang's eyes gleamed as power surged into his arm, the might of the Blood Mountain sword also increasing. Heaven's Bane. Jian Wushuang unleashed the brutal Heaven's Bane, and his sword smashed directly into the Samsara Temple Master's fist. Bang! There was a huge sound as a huge wave of black flames began spreading toward the perimeter, instantly turning the void into a sea of fire. The Samsara Temple Master stumbled and was knocked backward by the impact of the blow. He took a while to stabilize himself. Samsara Temple Master, I've already said that my current battle strength is no weaker than that of the Red Snow King. You don't have to hold back, said Jian Wushuang with a laugh. He could see that the Samsara Temple Master was holding back, perhaps in fear of injuring him. Samsara, you'll have to be careful. From the last blow, I can see that Jian Wushuang's strength is not much lesser than yours. You have to be on guard, or else you'll lose. Red Lotus teased. Samsara, unleash your full might, suggested the Sunrise Sword Emperor as well. Now it seems as though I've been too arrogant. Since that's the case, I'll give it my best shot now, said the Samsara Temple Master as he laughed loudly. At the same time, a jet black glove had covered his hand. Boom! He struck again, but this time with his palm instead of fist. Likewise, it was entirely covered with black flames and it came crashing down upon Jian Wushuang's head like a huge black cloud. The corners of Jian Wushuang's lip curled up and he responded instantly with a chilly sword shadow. It pierced into the heart of the black cloud, the center of the Samsara Temple Master's palm. The huge power of the black cloud dissipated instantly. You neutralized my move so easily, said the Samsara Temple Master with a look of surprise. Suddenly, Jian Wushuang struck again. This time, his move was hard to fathom, and it looked extremely casual. It looked like a simple move, but when it shot out, it disrupted space-time and instantaneously appeared in front of the Samsara Temple Master. It's very quick. The Samsara Temple Master stared at the strike. This move, exclaimed the Sunrise Sword Emperor as his pupils shrank violently. As a universe master-level expert that was most accustomed to using the sword, he realized that Jian Wushuang's move could affect space-time. How could any form of swordsmanship affect space-time? The Sunrise Sword Emperor could not help but marvel. Bam! The black flames covering the Samsara Temple Master moved and formed into a fiery dragon that wrapped around Jian Wushuang's strike, causing the sword essence to completely dissolve. Jian Wushuang took a huge stride, coming before the Samsara Temple Master. Chapter 1187, Restriction Removing Pearl. Chapter 1187, Restriction Removing Pearl. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Countless rays of sword light shot forth from Jian Wushuang's hands. Each of them was as quick as lightning and all of them were extremely powerful. They came bursting toward the Samsara Temple Master one after the other with great momentum. He used both hands this time. The black flames covering him increased once more, and even though he managed to block all of the strikes, he was scrambling to do so. That's about it. Stop now, said the Tang Emperor. Jian Wushuang stopped striking with his sword and his figure retreated to the side. It was only now that the Samsara Temple Master managed to catch his breath, but a smile appeared on his face. Ah! He laughed in an extremely carefree manner. The other four palace masters also began laughing. Samsara, this time, you've been humiliated this time. Red Lotus teased. Wasn't I? Before, I was still worried that Jian Wushuang was being a little egotistical and held back. Now, it's obvious that I was the egotistical one, laughed the Samsara Temple Master. Since Jian Wushuang managed to force you into such a state, it's without a doubt that he's already at peak universe master level and much stronger than any of the four of us, said the Void Temple Master. He gave the Sunrise Sword Emperor a weird look and said, Sunrise, I'm afraid that you won't be able to keep your title of #1 sword cultivator in the Green Fire world. The Sunrise Sword Emperor laughed bitterly. I knew long ago that Jian Wushuang had incredibly great talent in swordsmanship. In the past, I wished to have a friendly duel with him when he reached Celestial Master level, but who would have expected him to surpass me in terms of strength when he's just at Tao Master level? He said. That said, the stronger he is, and the more he defies the natural order, the greater the help he can give to the Green Fire Palace, he continued, clenching his fists. Indeed, the other palace masters nodded seriously. Jian Wushuang, the Samsara Temple Master, said as he looked toward him. You're only second to me in terms of strength now in the Green Fire Palace. I'm afraid even I won't be your match for long. Jian Wushuang felt emotional. From the Samsara Temple Master's voice, Jian Wushuang knew that he was still confident that he was stronger for now. The Samsara Temple Master is the eldest palace master in the Green Fire Palace, and his strength had always been unfathomable. Even though I had the slight upper hand just now, it was because he had held back. Furthermore, I believe that as a palace master he must have many treasures, but during our duel, he only used a chaos magic treasure level glove. He must still have many tricks up his sleeve, thought Jian Wushuang secretly. Of course, Jian Wushuang had also not used his entire repertoire of skills. He had not displayed the entire range of his swordsmanship. He did not use his most powerful move, that which was created by himself. To think that you would have such incredible progress during such a short span of 1,800 years. I'm now 100% sure that you can become the leader of the Green Fire Palace. It's a pity that the Green Fire world can't afford to wait for you to mature gradually, said the Samsara Temple Master with a light sigh. The other palace masters also felt a chill. Indeed, judging from the current situation, there was already no room for Jian Wushuang to cultivate his skills alone and slowly improve like before. The main body of the Gold Kingdom's army was arriving, and war would soon break out. If the Green Fire Palace lost, the entire Green Fire world would continue to exist only in history books. No matter what, the Green Fire Palace must win this battle, said Jian Wushuang as he clenched both fists tightly. Yes, we must, agreed the other 5 palace masters as they nodded readily. All right, all preparations have been made. Let's set off now, the Samsara Temple Master said. Immediately, all 6 palace masters, Jian Wushuang included, set forth for the base of the Gold Kingdom within the battlefield. They arrived at the void there a few days later. Is that where their base is? Asked Jian Wushuang as he squinted. Before him was a district shrouded in purple haze. It was huge, and Jian Wushuang's soul power could not penetrate the thick haze. Evidently, the Gold Kingdom had planted some formidable restrictive wards in the area. How could we hope to break into an area with such restrictions? Asked Jian Wushuang with a frown. Of course there's a way to do that. You just watch, said the Void Temple Master with a slight grin. He then took out a transparent pearl. The pearl contained a mysterious gray energy, and one could vaguely notice a faint thunderbolt dancing within it. It gave off an aura of destruction. What's this? Asked Jian Wushuang doubtfully. This is a restriction-removing pearl. It's especially used to break formations or remove restrictions. Many years ago, experts from our Green Fire Palace chanced upon a few of them when wandering about the battlefield. This is the first time that we're using them, though, said the Void Temple Master with a laugh. Upon hearing about the pearls, the Gu King also spoke up. This restriction-removing pearl is a real gem. In the eternal chaotic world, it could directly break through normal formations or restrictions. Even though the formation surrounding the base of the Gold Kingdom is formidable, I doubt that it could withstand the onslaught of these pearls. If I didn't guess wrong, I believe the Void Temple Master has a few of them with him. There are plenty of good things in this battlefield, Jian Wushuang pondered secretly. We shall all move according to plan, said the Samsara Temple Master in a chilling tone. When the restriction removal pearl is thrown out and breaks through all the restrictive formations, I along with Void, the Tang and Sunrise Sword Emperors will bring the 5 puppet fighters and charge directly into their nest to begin the slaughter. Red Lotus, you'll remain here and unleash your skill of the Jiaoyu realms, thereby suppressing the enemy experts in sync with our attack. At the same time, you'll prevent our enemies from escaping. Right, replied Red Lotus with a solemn nod. She then subconsciously touched the blood-red bracelet she was wearing. It was an extremely valuable piece of treasure. Jian Wushuang, the Samsara Temple Master continued, as he turned his gaze toward him. You're extremely strong, and only second to me. Furthermore, you're skilled in swordcraft and possess extremely great speed. You'll hide amongst the darkness and deliver the final blow. Strike once you've found the perfect opportunity and deal the most damage you can to the Gold Kingdom. It would be great if you can kill one or two of their universe masters in one blow. Understood, replied Jian Wushuang. His gaze had turned cold, and the killing intent was raging within himself. Everyone, today's battle concerns the survival of our green fire world. If we wipe out the Gold Kingdom's foundations today, when its main body arrives, we still stand a chance. If we fail, the green fire world will be doomed. We can't afford to lose this battle and let that chance of survival slip from our hands, the Samsara Temple Master said in a low tone. We have to win this battle. Victory! Jian Wushuang and the others roared. Let's strike. The Samsara Temple Master growled, and the Void Temple Master, who was beside him, tossed the restriction-removing pearl in his hand toward the district shrouded in purple haze. The pearl shot into the haze and instantly, a piercing glow emerged, like a sun emerging. An earth-shattering, terrible explosion soon followed. Boom! It was as though heaven and earth had split apart. After the explosion, the purple haze covering the perimeter of the Gold Kingdom's base began dispersing to the surrounding area. Chapter 1188, Outbreak of War. Chapter 1188, Outbreak of War. Within the base of the Gold Kingdom, in the palace that was the deepest inside, the red-headed, cold-looking and young Red Snow King had gathered with a few universe masters. Red Snow King, have you recovered from our injury? Asked the Golden Rock King. Right, replied the Red Snow King with a slight nod. His eyes, however, shone brightly. That Jian Wushuang is indeed vicious. Previously, the four kings of the Gold Kingdom had tried to assassinate Jian Wushuang, and he led them into Chilly Wind Valley knowing that he would die one way or the other. The blood-cold wind then erupted, and the Red Snow King managed to escape with his life, but he was seriously injured. Over the years, he had remained in seclusion as he healed. It was only recently that he had completely recovered from his injuries. It just so happens that the arrival of the main body of our army coincides with my recovery, he said. He licked his lips, a vicious look flashing across his eyes. The universe masters beside him were also stirred. They had waited far too long for this day. 5 million years. I've waited on this battlefield for 5 million years, and now, I'll finally get to see His Majesty in person. When he arrives with the main body of our army, they'll surely be able to wipe out the Green Fire Palace and the entire Green Fire world completely. This huge battlefield will then fall into the hands of our Gold Kingdom. This day has finally come. All of the universe masters all glowed with excitement and they growled continuously. They had been wandering in this battlefield for 5 million years and were extremely aware of how precious this battlefield could be. Unluckily, the presence of the Green Fire Palace severely restricted their movements. As such, they had long wanted to wipe their enemies completely out. That said, they did not have the capability to do so. They tried once 5 million years before and failed. After that failure, the Gold Kingdom had not given up trying to take over the battlefield. Their monarch had led the main body of their army toward this place exactly 5 million years ago. The location of the battlefield was far too unique, and the monarch of the Gold Kingdom expended much effort to lock in on it. He then spent many long years and sacrificed a lot before finally opening a portal to the battlefield with the inside help of the Red Snow King and gang. If it were not for the unique geography of the battlefield, he would have arrived long ago. All these years, I've been waiting on this battlefield and laid the foundations for His Majesty to lead our army here. This battle will be very different from the previous hastily planned one. This time, we are adequately prepared, and with these foundations along with the arrival of our monarch and more experts, the Green Fire Palace won't stand a chance. Our Gold Kingdom will definitely win this battle. The Red Snow King roared emotionally. The Universe Masters were also prepared and were waiting for the main body of their army to arrive. But at this moment, boom! Then came the sound of a terrible explosion. Instantly afterward, the entire base of the Gene Kingdom began shaking, and the Red Snow King and the other Universe Masters immediately noticed the tremors. Whoosh, 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 whoosh! Multiple figures rose into the sky and appeared in the void above the base. The Red Snow King stood in their center, his expression turning extremely chilly as he surveyed the scene in front of them. How could the surrounding restrictive formations be broken? He asked as his pupils shrank suddenly. The main body of their army was about to arrive, but at this moment, the restrictive formations surrounding their base in the battlefield were broken. It's the Green Fire Palace. They are going all in and want to destroy our foundations in this battlefield. The Red Snow King was immediately enlightened. As expected, after the restrictions were removed, exposing the Gene Kingdom's base, many figures with strong aura appeared in the void before them. The figures could be seen charging toward the Red Snow King and the other experts of the Gene Kingdom. The figures consisted of the Samsara and Void Temple Masters, the Tang and Sunrise Sword Emperors, as well as the 5 Universe Master level puppet fighters. Exactly 9 enemies at Universe Master level were charging directly toward the Red Snow King and gang. Are you guys staking the survival of your world on this attack? Do you think it'll be so easy? Stop them! He roared. A scarlet long spear appeared in his hand, a terrible aura emanating from it. He was the first from the Gene Kingdom's camp to move. The other 7 great Universe Masters, including the Golden Rock and Heaven Illusion Kings, followed closely behind. A huge battle broke out instantly. The Samsara Temple Master wore a jet black set of armor. It covered his entire body and even his face, except for a slit which allowed him to see. A murderous aura was emanating from it. He had transformed into an exceptionally fearsome beast, and he even had a jet black tail that was as sharp as a knife. Black flames covered his body and he clashed with the Red Snow King in an instant. "Smash him!" the Red Snow King shouted. His eyes gleamed as he flicked his wrist, the long spear in his hand flying out toward his enemy. Snowflakes started falling in the void surrounding them, but they were strangely blood-red in color. The entire district turned bone-chillingly cold. Humph! The Samsara Temple Master grunted coldly as his body expanded suddenly. He charged fiercely directly toward the long spear like a fearsome beast with complete disregard for his own safety. Bam! The collision caused the Red Snow King's weapon to bend into a weird shape. The momentum of the Samsara Temple Master only slowed down partially, and he continued to smash into the Red Snow King. The Red Snow King grunted. During this time, the Samsara Temple Master had already lifted his palm. Swish! He clawed with a frightening speed at his opponent, and it easily sliced the void surrounding them apart. The Red Snow King shook and his scarlet spear shot out into the void like a venomous coiled snake, appearing before his opponent's claw. Clang! The weapon collided with the Temple Master's palm. "Get lost!" the Samsara Temple Master exclaimed angrily. His razor-sharp black tail swung forth and slashed at the Red Snow King's face. The Red Snow King was caught surprised and could try to fend off the blow but placing his long spear before his chest. Bang! The Red Snow King trembled and transformed into flowing light, shooting backward. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. In a short period of time, the Red Snow King, who had charged fiercely toward his opponents earlier on, was already forced to retreat. Jian Wushuang was secretly surprised as he observed the fight in the shadows. As expected, the Red Snow King's still alive, and it looks like he has returned to peak strength. Even so, he is still obviously much weaker than the Samsara Temple Master. Chapter 1189, Jian Wushuang Strikes. Chapter 1189, Jian Wushuang Strikes. Jian Wushuang could not help but be awestruck. It was obvious that the Samsara Temple Master had held back by a lot during their friendly duel. Now, he was showing his true strength. The Red Snow King was of peak Universe Master strength, but the disparity in terms of strength between himself and the Samsara Temple Master was very obvious. He was knocked backward in an instant. The Samsara Temple Master's armor is definitely not anything ordinary. I guess it's about as powerful as your blood-killing plate armor. Furthermore, he's a Universe Master and could bring out more of his armor's power as compared to you, said the Gu King. Jian Wushuang was extremely clear. He could only utilize the first stage of his blood-killing plate armor's power. It had a total of 3 stages. The Samsara Temple Master could naturally draw out more power from his own armor than Jian Wushuang. While the Samsara Temple Master was engaging the Red Snow King, the other Universe Masters and puppet fighters of the Green Fire Palace had all found their own opponents. In addition, Red Lotus, who remained at the extreme perimeter of the battlefield, had also struck. "I'm unleashing the skill of the Jiuyu realms," she said. The accessory on her arm instantly gave off a blood-red glow and a huge blood-colored river came gushing out. It surged toward the surrounding with great force, covering the entire battlefield in an instant. The Jin Kingdom experts were soon all caught in its flow, their expressions changing. "Pressure!" Red Lotus growled. She released the terrible power of the river onto her opponents, and it came onto them with huge force. The fearsome pressure caused the weaker holy masters in the Jin Kingdom's camp to give off terrible cries as their torsos were ripped apart from the force. Even those holy masters amongst them who were somewhat stronger were on the verge of collapsing and in danger of being pounded into mush. "This is not good. It's a realm. Be careful." All of the Universe Masters from the Gold Kingdom wore serious expressions on their faces. Even experts at their level would have their strength reduced by nearly 20% if they were caught in the river flow. Such a strong realm, thought Jian Wushuang secretly. In terms of power, I'm afraid Red Lotus skill of the Jiuyu realms is even stronger than the Blaze Quicksand Gourd I obtained before, he thought. The power of her Jiuyu realm skill is indeed not bad, but it's still weaker than that of the Blaze Quicksand Gourd. You feel this way because you were too weak to properly unleash the gourd's true power. The Gu King's voice rang out. Putting you aside, I suspect that even most of the Green Fire Palace Masters can unleash its full power. It's also due to this reason that they would rather use other treasures and leave the gourd at the Fire Point Exchange office. Is that so? Jian Wushuang asked, feeling enlightened. All of a sudden, on the battlefield, a green haze began spreading. It formed a huge realm, thereby competing with the bloody river. Even though it was losing the battle, the Jin Kingdom experts were less tied down with its aid. Could it be that there are realm treasures in the Jin Kingdom as well? Also, it seems that they are treasures of high value? Thought Jian Wushuang. He could follow this line of thought, but he also felt his emotions stirring. The Green Fire Palace possessed far more treasures than the Jin Kingdom due to its far longer existence in the battlefield. That said, the latter had arrived on the battlefield 5 million years ago, and as such, its experts would not surprisingly have obtained realm treasures. To think that you people from the Green Fire Palace have even utilized your Universe Master-level puppet fighters. Seems like you guys are hell-bent on destroying the foundations our Jin Kingdom has laid on this battlefield, regardless of the consequences. The Red Snow King said in an icy tone as he held his spear in one hand, countless blood-red snowflakes falling behind him. Humph! Don't any of you from the Jin Kingdom think of escaping today? The Samsara Temple Master said, his booming voice projecting out from his black armor. As he spoke, he was already flying out toward his enemies. You wish to subdue all of us with only such strength? What a joke, scoffed the Red Snow King. He was feeling entirely unafraid. In terms of battle strength of their Universe Masters, the Green Fire Palace was indeed much stronger than the Jin Kingdom, and the former did indeed have a great advantage over its opponents with the aid of the Jiuyu realm. That said, it was merely an advantage, and it was indeed still wishful thinking on the Samsara Temple Master's part for his side to be able to completely wipe out the experts of the Jin Kingdom. At this moment, Jian Wushuang, who had remained concealed all this while, was prepared to strike. I need to secure victory for us the moment I strike, he thought. I need to kill one or more universe masters from the Jin Kingdom instantly before they even have time to react. Jian Wushuang licked his lips and fixed his icy stare on one area of the unfolding battle. 2 universe masters of the Jin Kingdom were gathered there. Jian Wushuang was extremely familiar with them. They were the Golden Rock King and the Heaven Illusion King. Both of them had tried to assassinate him on the battlefield earlier. I shall attack these two, he thought. There was a flash of killing intent in his gaze as his figure began slowly drifting toward their location. Both the Golden Rock and Heaven Illusion Kings were joining forces in a battle against the Void Temple Master. Amongst the other Green Fire Palace Masters, only the Samsara Temple Master's battle strength was higher than that of the Void Temple Master. The latter was close to peak Universe Master level, and both the Golden Rock and Heaven Illusion Kings could barely manage to hold him at bay even after joining forces. Most of the time the Void Temple Master held the upper hand. Destroy! He was wielding 2 gold discs and one of them was colored white while the other black. He tossed both of them out at the same time. The discs collided with the Golden Rock and Heaven Illusion Kings. The former was the stronger of the two, but he still could not help continuously stumbling backward. As for his comrade, the Heaven Illusion King, she literally flew backward from the impact. Just then, OM! A chilling sword light was forming. It was extremely dazzling, and it affected the surrounding space-time as it shot out. Instantly, it appeared before the Golden Rock King. Be careful, Golden Rock King, the Heaven Illusion King roared in surprise from a distance away. What? The Golden Rock King asked, his expression changing drastically. The sword light was too fast and caught him by surprise. As such, he did not have any time to react. Who could have unleashed such a swift sword light? The Sunrise Sword Emperor. No, he was on another part of the battlefield, and could not have suddenly appeared here. Who was it then? Could there still be experts from the Green Fire Palace concealed in this battlefield? The Golden Rock King's mind was racing. His body, however, did not have enough time to react, and he could only stare at the sword light coming towards his head. Chi! The sword light shot past. The Golden Rock King's head instantly detached from his neck and flew a distance away. The first casualty who was of Universe Master level was the Golden Rock King. Chapter 1190 Utter Defeat. Chapter 1190 Utter Defeat. How could this happen? The Heaven Illusion King's eyes were wide open and her body trembled slightly. The Golden Rock King was killed right in front of her, but she did not even notice who was the assailant. Suddenly, a cold sword light formed again, and this time it came straight for her. The instant she saw the sword light, she also noticed clearly who her opponent was. He was a young man in a blood-red robe, and his looks were extremely familiar to her. Shouldn't this person already have been killed 1,800 years ago? How did he appear here again? Impossible! Impossible! Jian Wushuang, how could it be you? She gave off a shrill cry, and even though she was shaken up, she had no plans to die as her comrade did. An exquisite aquamarine pagoda appeared behind her, and her eyes began to give off a strange glow. It could charm. Ridiculous! The Heaven Illusion King was most skilled in illusion skills, and they could be classified as consciousness attacks. That said, however, her attacks were but a joke to Jian Wushuang, who had already lit up his soul fire. Jian Wushuang's figure was unimpeded by the attack and appeared before the Heaven Illusion King, appearing to have not been hindered by it. Now's my turn, he said coldly. He then unleashed the sword move that he had prepared. Spell of Disturbance. A strong gust of wind shot toward the Heaven Illusion King. A sword shadow was in the gust of wind. It grew into the size of a storm, entirely engulfing the Heaven Illusion King. Before Jian Wushuang had even unleashed his swordsmanship, a fearsome soul attack was already upon the Heaven Illusion King. She was caught surprised, leading to her consciousness being disrupted for a short while. Even though the pause was negligible, her actions were now a little slower and she was helpless to fend off Jian Wushuang's move. As the sword essence storm raged on, the Heaven Illusion King's corpse was left behind. A second universe master was killed. What? Golden Rock King, Heaven Illusion King, this. It's him. Both kings were killed by him. Everyone at the scene witnessed the deaths of the two universe masters, and naturally, all color had left the experts from the Jin Kingdom. The two deceased kings were considered as stronger amongst the universe masters of the Jin Kingdom, yet they were killed in an instant. Furthermore, they did not even have time to react. How strong was their assailant? Jian Wushuang. The Red Snow King stared at Jian Wushuang, a hint of disbelief in his voice. Jian Wushuang. He's the Jian Wushuang. Wasn't he supposed to be dead? How is he still alive? Even if he's alive, how did he manage to increase his strength by this much? Angry and shocked voices rang out. The experts of the Jin Kingdom were indeed extremely shocked. 1,800 years ago, the Red Snow, Golden Rock, Heaven Illusion and Heaven Shadow Kings had combined forces to assassinate Jian Wushuang. They paid a heavy price for it, and the Heaven Shadow King even lost his life, but they had at least accomplished their goal. Jian Wushuang was indeed struck dead that time. But if he was, how could he be appearing before them now? So who was this young man in the blood-red robes who had cut down two of their universe masters so quickly? Bastard! To think you're still alive! Growled the Red Snow King, an unprecedented level of rage in his eyes. I'm sorry to have disappointed you, replied Jian Wushuang with a cold smile. The Red Snow King was shaken. He had personally seen Jian Wushuang enter Chilly Wind Valley and smashed to bits by the blood-cold wind. Logically, he should have remained dead, but here he was all in one piece. Moreover, his strength had obviously increased greatly over such a short span of time. The other Green Fire Palace Masters were feeling completely assured, the exact opposite of their opponents. Good one, Jian Wushuang. Well done. Humph. Now that two of the Jin Kingdom's universe masters have been killed, I want to see what they can come up with next. Kill! The Samsara Temple Master roared. His eyes were red and he gave off a terrible killing intent as he attacked again. Kill! Kill them all! The other palace masters, Jian Wushuang included, were on a rampage and they began slaughtering the enemy experts. Before Jian Wushuang struck, the Jin Kingdom experts could still somewhat manage to fend off the attacks of the palace masters, even though they were at the losing end of the battle. Now, however, things were largely different after the death of two of their universe masters and the entry of Jian Wushuang into the battle. Die! Jian Wushuang exclaimed. He appeared phantom-like before another universe master of the Jin Kingdom and engulfed him with another sword essence storm. That's not good. The expressions of a few other universe masters of the Jin Kingdom changed drastically. Just moments ago, they had personally witnessed the Heaven Illusion King being killed by the same move. Now, it was this universe master's turn. PSSSH. Sword lights flew out one after the other, and the universe master, whose battle strength was comparable to the Golden Rock King, could only manage to fend off two blows while under Jian Wushuang's soul attack. The third blow pierced through his throat. At the moment, Jian Wushuang had already cut down three universe masters. Damn. That boy. Those were universe masters, yet he could kill them almost instantly. Too strong, he's too strong. Run. The experts from the Jin Kingdom were utterly defeated. They were crumbling. The few kings that were still alive were all scared listless as they saw how easily Jian Wushuang cut down their comrades. None of them dared to continue fighting. He had really cut them down with unfathomable speed. They died instantly, without being able to defend themselves at all. It was even more frightening than the Samsara Temple Master's attacks. Even though the Temple Master was strong and could kill ordinary universe masters as well, even he could not do so in such a casual and quick fashion. Jian Wushuang, on the other hand, was a sword cultivator and a master swordsman of death. No universe master of an ordinary level could hope to withstand the extremely swift space-time sword principle and soul attack that he had created. Slaughter. At the moment, Jian Wushuang was slaughtering the enemy experts with abandon. It did not matter what level they were, he showed no mercy and killed them all. The other palace masters and puppet fighters also slaughtered their enemies mercilessly. The battle was completely one-sided. Chapter 1191, Luring the Soul. Chapter 1191, Luring the Soul. Run! Quick, run! The Jin Kingdom experts began fleeing frantically. This place was the former capital of the Jin Kingdom. Coupled with the fact that the main forces of the kingdom were about to arrive, the kingdom had gathered the celestial masters who was already on the battlefield here. However, it seemed as if they had set up themselves to seized by the Green Fire Palace in one fell swoop. These celestial masters did not even have the right to put up a fight. They could merely flee frantically. Unfortunately, it was difficult for them to do so as they were in the ruddy-faced Jiao Yu's domain. Thus, a large amount of celestial masters was mercilessly slaughtered. Damn it! Red Snow King's face was icy cold as he emitted a roar. Out of the blue, a pitch-black tail that was like a saber came sweeping at him at lightning speed. He immediately scrambled to defend himself, but Samsara Temple Master suddenly bellowed. The sound carried a terrifying sound wave that attacked him. Crash! The low sound of collision resounded and Red Snow King's body flew out. While being flung away, he spewed blood from his mouth. Red Snow King, I've told you that I won't let even one of you Jin Kingdom experts here today escape. Samsara Temple Master's cold voice reverberated in the air. Instead of getting angry, Red Snow King laughed and replied, "You won't let even one of us escape? Don't you think you're too confident in yourselves? Did you really think you'll be able to ruin the foundation of our Jin Kingdom on this battlefield with a couple of palace masters, Jian Wushuang, and several puppet fighters? What a joke! Since you're all here today, don't even dream of escaping." Red Snow King was seeing red, his gaze carrying a boundless killing intent. The several palace masters of Green Fire Palace and Jian Wushuang could not help frowning after hearing his words. What kind of trouble could Red Snow King cause now that the situation had reached its current state and all the experts in the old Jin Kingdom capital had escaped? Humph! Following a harumph, Red Snow King waved his hand and a sturdy figure immediately appeared in the void beside him. This sturdy figure was evidently a puppet fighter that bore no vitality or aura whatsoever. Moreover, it ought to be one at the Universe Master level. However, Red Snow King would not be able to change the current situation even if he could produce puppet fighters at the 3rd or 4th level, let alone a single one at the Universe Master level. Could it be? The pupils of Samsara Temple Master, Void Temple Master, and the others rapidly shrank. They came to realize there was something Red Snow King could do. Per their expectations, they saw him taking out a jade bottle and poured the drop of blood essence on the puppet fighter. Then, a simple and unsophisticated aura slowly began to rise out of the puppet fighter. Oh no! Damn it! The expressions of Samsara Temple Master, Void Temple Master, and the others changed. They already knew what Red Snow King was attempting to do. Soul luring. This is a soul luring tactic. Gu King's solemn voice reverberated in Jian Wushuang's heart. Soul luring? What's soul luring? Jian Wushuang immediately asked. Soul luring is a rather strange tactic from the eternal chaotic world. The user will imbue a shred of his consciousness into a drop of essence blood and then use his secret skill on a puppet fighter or some other vessel. One will have to pay a great price for using this tactic. In fact, the stronger one is, the steeper the price, Gu King replied. What you're seeing right now is an example of soul luring. The drop of essence blood contained a shred of consciousness. I believe it to be the monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness. Monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Even though it's just a shred of consciousness, it contains the memories of the monarch of Jin Kingdom. In other words, the shred of consciousness could unleash the secret skills he knows, including the Tao that he founded and the unique moves that he created through the puppet fighter, Gu King continued. However, this puppet fighter is only in the Universe Master level. That means whatever skills the monarch of Jin Kingdom uses will only contain the force of half a Universe Master level. I see, Jian Wushuang said, finally understanding the situation. Sure enough, the pupils of the puppet fighter that was completely still earlier began shifting around after the soul-luring ceremony. It was now alive. Your Highness. Red Snow King immediately kowtowed to the puppet fighter. The puppet fighter ignored him and turned to look at the palace masters of the Green Fire Palace. Knowing that my army is about to arrive, you all decided to take the first initiative and destroy all our foundation here. Your palace masters are pretty smart, aren't they? Courageous too, said a cold, hoarse voice. The faces of Samsara Temple Master, Void Temple Master, Emperor of Tang, Emperor of the Rising Sun Sword, and Red Lotus darkened. They had once seen this scene 5 million years ago. In the war between the Jin Kingdom and the Green Fire Palace, the former had used this exact same soul-luring skill to place a shred of their monarch's consciousness in a puppet fighter. The Green Fire Palace had to pay a steep price and exerted great effort before they could defeat the puppet fighter imbued with the monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness. Would history repeat itself today? This is troublesome, Samsara Temple Master muttered. Even though the basic strength of monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness was only at the ordinary Universe Master, his realm was above the Universe Master level. The last time we fought, you people had to use all sorts of tricks and sacrifice 2 of your Universe Masters to defeat a shred of my consciousness. I wonder what price you'll have to pay this time? The monarch of Jin Kingdom said, smiling faintly at them. Samsara, what should we do? The palace masters of the Green Fire Palace were already gathered in the same spot. What to do? What can we do? The voice of Samsara Temple Master was cold. Since things have come to this point, our only choice is to kill him. Kill me? How audacious! The monarch of Jin Kingdom sneered. His eyes turned steely and in the next second, he was already charging at them. Kaboom! The aura of Samsara Temple Master surged violently as black flames flared from within his body. Carrying an endlessly tyrannical aura, he appeared in front of the monarch of Jin Kingdom. Underneath his black armor, his face had thoroughly contorted into a warped expression. His strength was at its peak. The palm that was covered in black armor was like a legendary rain-summoning dragon as he suddenly threw it outward. Black ripples emerged out of nowhere as explosions rang out. The 9 ripples revolved around Samsara Temple Master's palm. His palm suddenly exploded with the power of millions of thunderbolts. 9th-fold Heaven Samsara Seal. Kaboom! It was an earth-shattering skill. This was the most powerful unique move of Samsara Temple Master in his many years of fame. It was also a skill that he executed with all of his strength. Chapter 1192 Battle. Chapter 1192 Battle. How audacious of the light of a firefly to contend with the splendor of the sun and moon. The monarch of Jin Kingdom sneered when he saw Samsara Temple Master making his move, a lance already in hand. The dark as ink lance emanated a terrifying aura. It was a lance that was condensed purely out of monarch of Jin Kingdom's power. He followed suit in taking a step forward. The moment he stepped out, the pitch-black lance had already transformed into a pitch-black lightning bolt. The lightning bolt immediately pierced the void with an explosion. Boom! The lightning bolt caused an immense black hole to form in the void. The black hole began expanding at an astonishing speed and reached hundreds of thousands of miles in no time. Inside this black hole, the monarch of Jin Kingdom's lance had already collided with Samsara Temple Master's most powerful move. Clang! The collision caused an earth-shattering sound. Out of the 9 Tau pitch-black ripples from Samsara Temple Master's strike, 3 immediately shattered. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Tau followed suit after. The eyes of Samsara Temple Master turned bloodshot, and underneath the black armor, his face was equally as crazed. He had given his all in executing the move. However, sounds of collision reverberated out of the blue. Two dull sounds of collision reverberated. The 7th and 8th Tau pitch-black ripples also dissipated. Insects are still insects at the end of the day. The monarch of Jin Kingdom smiled apathetically. Faint light burst out of the pitch-black lance in his hand, causing its power to heighten drastically. The lance then split open the final black ripple and arrive above Samsara Temple Master without losing any power or momentum. The terrifying impact came drifting towards Samsara Temple Master. Even with his black armor greatly weakening the impact, he nevertheless still made a quiet groan. The chi and blood in him were boiling, causing blood to spew from his mouth. Swoosh! Like an artillery shell, his body subsequently exploded. Samsara! Void Temple Master, Emperor of Tang, Emperor of the Rising Sun Sword, and Red Lotus all turned pale with fright. Samsara Temple Master was unmistakably the strongest out of the 5 of them. They were stunned that he was still forced to retreat after using his strongest move on the monarch of Jin Kingdom. How is that a shred of consciousness is this strong? Emperor of the Rising Sun Sword cried in shock. It had not been long since he abruptly ascended the throne. He was not involved in the war 5 million years ago and thus did not see how the monarch of Jin Kingdom had wiped the battlefield clean back then. Jian Wushuang, who stood some distance away, narrowed his eyes. Even though the puppet fighter that carries his consciousness is only at the Universe Master level and the power he unleashed would be at a similar level, his realm is too high. The might of the Tao that he created, as well as the numerous secret skills that he possesses, surpassed what we have. In summary, his battle prowess is certainly at the peak of a Universe Master, the Supreme Universe Master level. Supreme Universe Master? I'm also one. I believe I'm the only one out of the entire Green Fire Palace to stand a fighting chance against him. Since that's the case. Jian Wushuang held the Blood Mountain sword in his hands, battle intent slowly but fiercely surging within him. Fight! Following the yelling. Right at the next moment, Jian Wushuang had already floated outward. You Palace Masters play a critical role in the Green Fire Palace. If I can kill you all now, it'll be so much easier for my army to sweep you all clean. The monarch of Jin Kingdom gave a light chuckle as he stared at Samsara Temple Master and the rest. In his eyes was a hint of killing intent. Just then, buzz! A faint sword echo resounded in the air and an incomparably egotistical aura immediately locked onto the monarch of Jin Kingdom. The monarch of Jin Kingdom turned around with a raised eyebrow. Samsara Temple Master and the rest also heard the sword echo and immediately turned to look at the source of the sound. Jian Wushuang. They were all stupefied. Their expressions changed drastically when they saw Jian Wushuang flying straight toward the monarch of Jin Kingdom. Don't be hasty, Jian Wushuang. Hurry up and retreat. Jian Wushuang, you're not his match. Hurry up and run. Jian Wushuang, don't be stupid. The 5 palace masters cried out at the same time, asking Jian Wushuang to retreat. What a joke! The monarch of Jin Kingdom managed to force Samsara Temple Master to back off even after the latter had used all of his strength. Clearly, the former possessed strength superior to theirs. Their only choice was to work together and pay the price of sacrificing 1 or 2 of them to eliminate the monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness. Going one-on-one was no different from digging one's own grave. Jian Wushuang's eyes remained steely even after hearing the cries of the 5 palace masters, showing no desire whatsoever to retreat. The Jin Kingdom experts began to sneer. How interesting. Hotspurs like him are a rare sight in the eternal chaotic world. It's only in completely isolated places like this that we can see something like this. Since you're so desperate to be the first to die, I'll grant your wish. The monarch of Jin Kingdom made his move after speaking. Once again, he took a step forward and thrust the pitch-black lance in his hand in the next moment. Boom! The terrifying might caused the world to tremble. The surviving universe masters and celestial masters of the Gene Kingdom quaked in fear from the bottom of their hearts when they sensed this formidable might. There was a rupture in the void as the pitch-black lance directly penetrated Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang's figure had also abruptly halted. His eyes seemed to be burning with fire as they stared fixedly at the pitch-black lance. He had already lifted the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. The moment he lifted his sword, a buzzing sound resounded and the entire world plunged into darkness. Everything fell into darkness and nothingness. There was no longer any light to be seen. The world also fell into complete stillness. Flabbergasted, the monarch of Jin Kingdom raised his head. He happened to see Jian Wushuang swinging his sword at him. This swing was accompanied by a dazzling ray of light. The dazzling light radiated the world as if it was the first light of dawn rising from the end of the horizon. After 1,800 years of earnest cultivation, this was the strongest move that Jian Wushuang could produce. It was a sword movement in the Supreme Secret level. Dawn had arrived. Supreme Secret? The eyes of Monarch of Jin Kingdom glinted and the might of the lance immediately exploded. Kaboom! The change of the world caused all living things to tremble. The experts in the area couldn't help shrieking in their hearts. That's Samsara Temple Master, Void Temple Master, Emperor of Tang, Emperor of the Rising Sun Sword, Red Lotus, and the 5 Palace Masters widened their eyes. They all stared fixedly at the scene before them. To be more precise, they were staring at the hint of dawn unfolding in the boundless darkness. Under everyone's focused gaze, 2 terrifyingly powerful forces collided with one another. Chapter 1193, I Take You In as My Personal Disciple. Chapter 1193, I Take You In as My Personal Disciple. Boom! The terrifying explosion reverberated in the world as the 2 powers collided, causing the void to rupture frantically. Strong gales from the clash of the 2 energies exploded out. Retreat! Even while grappling with shock, the master of Samsara Temple and the others immediately retreated. With a steely face, Jian Wushuang stood in the center of this powerful collision. His sword light remained as dazzling as ever. He managed to create a supreme secret. The eyes of the monarch of Jin Kingdom glinted as he stared fixedly on Jian Wushuang. He then sneered. Whoosh, whoosh. Both of them were pushed backward by the force at the same time. Thud, 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 thud. Jian Wushuang treaded on the void, each step imbued with million tons of force as he trampled on the void. He took a total of 10 steps backward before stopping. When he once again lifted his head, his battle intent was overpowering. Meanwhile, the monarch of Jin Kingdom had also taken 10 steps backward before stopping. To think that they would be evenly matched in a head-on collision. How is this possible? Red Snow King cried with an unprecedented sense of shock. His eyes were now entirely open as he stared fixedly at Jian Wushuang. The master of Samsara Temple and the rest were also stupefied. Not even the master of Samsara Temple was able to contend with the monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness after exerting his full strength. Yet Jian Wushuang was evenly matched with the latter. Was this a joke? 1,800 years. It has only been 1,800 years. Emperor of Tang clasped his hands tightly, a deep sense of surprise coloring his eyes. The master of Samsara Temple and the rest were overjoyed at the unexpected turn of events. They were already deeply shocked when they found out that Jian Wushuang was no weaker than Red Snow King. But they never once thought that the power of Jian Wushuang would be so much more frightening than what they imagination. 1,800 years ago, Jian Wushuang was merely equipped with the battle strength of a universe master. He managed to improve his strength this much in a short span of 1,800 years. What the monster! The palace masters could not suppress their tempestuous hearts. Their lifespans were all incomparably long. Never mind 1,800 years, it would be hard for them to see significant progress in their strength even after 18,000 years. Jian Wushuang's progress was certainly extraordinary. That sword move earlier, Emperor of the Rising Sun Sword's eyes were wide open. The scene of Jian Wushuang unleashing his swordsmanship replayed in his mind over and over. Previously, when another palace master said that he could no longer maintain his position as the top sword cultivator in the Green Fire world, he was unable to accept it. Even though Jian Wushuang had previously shown strength superior to his, the former was an inverse cultivator with many treasures and plethora of tricks. In terms of kendo and swordsmanship, he believed that he was not any weaker than Jian Wushuang. In fact, he might even be stronger. However, now that he had seen that sword move, he no longer harbored any thoughts of competing with Jian Wushuang. That sword strike surpassed everything he knew about swordsmanship. He's the true top sword cultivator of the Green Fire world. Emperor of the Rising Sun Sword exclaimed in a solemn voice. Over on the battlefield, the eyes of the monarch of Jin Kingdom glinted as he looked at Jian Wushuang. "If I'm not mistaken, you ought to be a mere Dao master?" he asked. "So what if it's true?" Jian Wushuang retorted in an icy cold voice. "How extraordinary that a mere Dao master is able to create a swordsmanship of the supreme secret level and possess the battle strength of a universe master. Though I've seen countless talents in the eternal chaotic world, you're much more noteworthy than any of them," the monarch of Jin Kingdom said with a smile. "I'll give you a chance in view of your talent." "Chance? Chance?" Jian Wushuang asked emotionlessly. "I'll give you a chance to swear your allegiance to me," the monarch of Jin Kingdom said, smiling. "My original body will soon be here. When that time comes, I'll sweep this battlefield clean. Of course, that means I'll be destroying all of you Green Fire Palace people as well. You too will die. However, if you swear your allegiance to me, I'll spare your life and even take you in as my personal disciple. The many opportunities and treasures left on this battlefield will belong to us both. What say you? You'll take me in as a personal disciple?" Jian Wushuang could not help sneering. "Jian Wushuang, are you aware of what kind of illustrious existence His Highness is? He founded the great Jin Kingdom but has never taken any personal disciples. His willingness to do so is the result of the accumulation of your luck over your entire lifetime. Won't you hurry up and agree?" Red Snow King cried. "I'm afraid I'm unable to bear the love that the monarch of Jin Kingdom has shown me," Jian Wushuang said coldly. "What?" The eyes of the monarch of Jin Kingdom turned cold. Shaking his head, he said, "That's a pity then. Since you're not willing to accept me as your master and join my camp, that makes you my enemy. I have no choice but to exterminate a talent like you." "Exterminate me? Just based on the little shred of consciousness you have here?" Jian Wushuang mocked. "How would I know if I don't try?" The monarch of Jin Kingdom laughed as he stared fixedly at Jian Wushuang with a pair of icy cold eyes. Strange scarlet rays of light flitted inside his pupils. Buzz! An incorporeal force attacked Jian Wushuang's sea of consciousness. A jolt went through his body but he swiftly recovered. "Consciousness attack?" Jian Wushuang sneered. "You blocked it?" The monarch of Jin Kingdom was rather flabbergasted. "I've truly underestimated you. Looks like I won't be able to kill you with just this shred of consciousness, but we can just wait for my original body to arrive to deal with you. Let me first put things in order here." "With me around, you won't have this opportunity," Jian Wushuang said. "Oh." The monarch of Jin Kingdom narrowed his eyes. Swoosh! Swoosh! Their figures vanished at the same time. When they reappeared, they were already locked in a fierce battle. The void around them was instantly crushed as a result of their fight. Wearing an icy cold expression, Jian Wushuang held his trembling Blood Mountain sword in one hand and immediately thrust it at the monarch of Jin Kingdom. Spiritual Dragon. His Blood Mountain sword immediately turned into an immense black dragon that violently tore at the monarch of Jin Kingdom. The monarch of Jin Kingdom appeared tranquil as he threw the pitch-black lance in his hand in a seemingly casual manner. This time, The lance went straight through the immense black dragon and even destroyed the force concealed with the dragon. Spell of disturbance. Following Jian Wushuang's roar, gale began to rise around them and shadows of the sword burst forth from his hand. In an instant he created a storm of sword shadows that enveloped the monarch of Jin Kingdom. The terrifying sword shadows abruptly exploded. Chapter 1194 Reincarnation of the Extinguished Consciousness. Chapter 1194 Reincarnation of the Extinguished Consciousness. Interesting. The monarch of Jin Kingdom appeared overjoyed even as he was trapped in the storm of sword shadows. He thrust his pitch-black lance in a seemingly casual manner but happened to block Jian Wushuang's sword at just the right timing. My spell of disturbance pushes the sword principles of the world to its pinnacle. Each sword strike affects time and space at a frighteningly high speed, yet he's able to block each one with such ease? Jian Wushuang frowned. Just show me all that you have, the monarch of Jin Kingdom said with a laugh. Jian Wushuang's face darkened. His figure began to sway and a doppelganger appeared next to him. Oh, a doppelganger? The monarch of Jin Kingdom lifted an eyebrow. Kill! Jian Wushuang's eyes were icy cold as he and his doppelganger brandished their swords side by side. Then, at a lightning speed, they thrust their swords together. Jian Wushuang's doppelganger possessed the exact same sword principles and swordsmanship as him. It could also unleash the stroke of dawn. The only difference was that it was not dressed in the blood-killing plate armor and was thus slightly weaker than Jian Wushuang. However, with this move as a supreme secret level, it still possessed the battle strength of a peak universe master. Master of Samsara Temple. Let's fight together. Jian Wushuang opened his mouth to emit a whistle as he and his doppelganger struck at the same time. All right. The master of Samsara Temple, who had stabilized his injuries, immediately nodded. His body rapidly enlarged and turned into a large vicious beast that was covered in armor. He then charged toward the monarch of Jin Kingdom and arrived in front of the latter. The master of Void Temple, Emperor of Tang, Emperor of the Rising Sun Sword, and Red Lotus could only watch as the master of Samsara Temple joined Jian Wushuang. Red Lotus could, at most, impose slight suppression on the monarch of Jin Kingdom with his 9 Serenities domain. There was nothing concrete that they could do against such a powerful enemy like the monarch of Jin Kingdom. Considering their strength, any show of carelessness on the battlefield will just give the monarch an opportunity to kill them. The war between the Green Fire Palace and the Jin Kingdom was imminent, and any difference in realm and battle strength was vital in determining the outcome of the war. They would not hastily try and take down the monarch of Jin Kingdom unless it was absolutely necessary. With Jian Wushuang, his doppelganger, and the master of Samsara Temple working together, coupled with Red Lotus 9 Serenities domain aiding their fight, it was enough to take down the manifestation of the monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness. Kill! Die! The 3 of them unleashed their greatest battle potential. In particular, Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship was sharp and precise. In terms of battle strength, he was not weaker than the monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness in the slightest. Under successive attacks from all 3 of them, the monarch of Jin Kingdom immediately fell to a state of disadvantage. Not long after. Humph! The master of Samsara Temple harumphed coldly as he took advantage of the gap when the monarch of Jin Kingdom was resisting Jian Wushuang's sword. With his large body, he slammed into the monarch with the force of a mountain. The puppet fighter that housed the monarch's consciousness immediately became damaged and part of his arm shattered from the force of the collision. The eyes of Jian Wushuang and the master of Samsara Temple brightened up when they saw this scene. Sure enough. Jian Wushuang smirked. This soul-luring trick draws only the monarch's consciousness, but its body is still that of a puppet fighter of the level of a universe master with ordinary defensive capabilities. It doesn't have any self-protection methods either, and any ordinary universe master would be able to cause such damage if their attack lands on the puppet fighter's body. Let alone the master of Samsara Temple's brutal attack. Moreover, the monarch couldn't restore the damaged parts of the puppet fighter. The monarch of Jin Kingdom saw a sharp decline in his battle strength after the master of Samsara Temple slammed into him. He was subsequently put under even stronger suppression. The puppet fighters soon reached the fringe of complete destruction. The monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness remained in the puppet fighter, but he could also detect that his vessel had reached its limit. Even so, he showed no anger. His face remained as cold as ever. Jian Wushuang, I have remembered you. It won't be long before my true body arrives. I want to see if how your green fire palace resist me then. Don't think that you'll have the opportunity to live just because you've ruined our foundation here. It's impossible. I've made preparations this time. It doesn't matter what tricks you people have up your sleeves, everything will end up being destroyed. Wait for your deaths. The monarch of Jin Kingdom's voice reverberated in the air like the booming of thunder. The sound did not dissipate for a long time. However, the puppet fighter had thoroughly frittered away and his consciousness also disappeared. Jian Wushuang and the master of Samsara Temple hovered in the void as they stared at the puppet fighter slowly falling to the ground. Their expressions were as grave as ever. If his consciousness alone is this difficult to handle, just how terrifying would the real thing be? Jian Wushuang tightly clasped his hands, his eyes clouded over. The monarch of Jin Kingdom was unable to unleash many of his skills and tricks, including his strength, due to the limitations of his vessel. Even so, he was only defeated when Jian Wushuang used his doppelganger and with the help of the master of Samsara Temple. The monarch himself ought to be tenfold, perhaps even hundredfold, stronger. What could the Green Fire Palace do to resist the monarch of Jin Kingdom when he descends on this battlefield? Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The master of the Void Temple, Emperor of Tang, Emperor of the Rising Sun Sword, and Red Lotus flew over to them. Jian Wushuang. The four palace masters, including the master of Samsara Temple, looked at him gratefully. This time, they had come here with the intention of destroying the former capital of the Jin Kingdom as well as the kingdom's foundation in this battlefield. Yet they did not expect that the kingdom would once again use the soul-luring skill and draw the consciousness of the monarch of Jin Kingdom here. Were it not for Jian Wushuang making a prompt move, the monarch's consciousness could very well slaughter them all. The five of them might not be able to survive this. Jian Wushuang's strength had also stunned them. The top expert of the Green Fire Palace was previously the master of Samsara Temple. However, after this battle, the position belonged to Jian Wushuang. The only problem was that no one had the mood to bring this up under such circumstances. After all, this was a problem that determined the survival of the entire Green Fire Palace, and even the Green Fire world. Everyone, what happened to the other Jin Kingdom experts? Jian Wushuang asked. While Jian Wushuang and the master of Samsara Temple were working together to exterminate the monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness, the other three worked to complement Red Lotus 9 Serenity's domain and slaughter all the Jin Kingdom experts. Few of the Jin Kingdom could escape thanks to Red Lotus 9 Serenity's domain. Most of the holy masters were killed, with only a few lucky ones fleeing. The universe masters are all dead, except for Red Snow King. The master of Void Temple answered. Chapter 1195, 80 Years. Chapter 1195, 80 Years. Red Snow King escaped? Jian Wushuang frowned. It's my fault, the master of Void Temple said, taking the blame for what happened. The cunning Red Snow King immediately fled when he saw that the monarch of Jin Kingdom's consciousness wasn't going to last. Even though I managed to react in time and work together with Red Lotus to stop him, he still managed to run. Red Snow King possesses the battle strength of a peak universe master. It's normal that you fail to stop him, the master of Samsara Temple said. Jian Wushuang gave a small nod. Whatever the case, we've fulfilled our objective of our war this time. You're right. We did it. The five palace masters began to smile. Even though they were still under immense pressure, they had still successfully destroyed the plans of the former capital of the Jin Kingdom. Their objective was essentially fulfilled. This was a great victory for them. With this great victory, they could still put up a struggle against the main Jin army. If the Green Fire Palace lost this war, then it would truly be the arrival of Judgment Day for them. The former capital of the Jin Kingdom is now destroyed. Even though there are still surviving experts on this battlefield, all of them except for Red Snow King are insignificant for us. We can now destroy their foundation here without worries. Before the army arrives, they wouldn't have any way of resisting us, the master of Samsara Temple said. Emperor of Tang, Rising Sun, Red Lotus, I'll leave the task of destroying the foundation of Jin Kingdom to you three. You must work quickly. No problem. The three of them nodded. The former capital of the Jin Kingdom was already destroyed. Eradicating their foundation would be as easy as blowing off dust. Void, Jian Wushuang, the three of us will immediately return to the Green Fire Palace and prepare for the upcoming war. Moreover, we must announce the news of this decisive battle, the master of Samsara Temple continued. Jian Wushuang and the master of Void Temple wore solemn expressions. They were well aware that the upcoming war would dictate the life and death of the Green Fire Palace, and all the experts must be gathered for it. The only way for them to resist the offensive forces of the Jin Kingdom, and perhaps even prevail, was to gather and unite all the high-level forces of the Green Fire world. Red Lotus, did you record the scene of the battle today with your mirror image token? The master of Samsara Temple asked, turning toward Red Lotus. I did. Red Lotus nodded. He took out a token and handed it to the master of Samsara Temple. This is great. The Jin Kingdom is too strong. If we just announce the news just like that, the experts of our Green Fire world will certainly be alarmed. But after this battle today, we can certainly lift their morale. The master of Samsara Temple said solemnly. Morale was a crucial point looking at how imminent the war was. The palace masters of the Green Fire Palace did not simply wage today just to destroy the foundation of the Jin Kingdom in this battlefield. They wanted to boost the morale of the entire Green Fire world at the same time. They wanted to give the Green Fire world hope of a victory, as only then would the experts unite and display their full strength. Let's go! Jian Wushuang and the other 6 palace masters immediately separated to go about their respective tasks. Emperor of Tang, Emperor of the Rising Sun Sword, and Red Lotus destroyed the foundation of Jin Kingdom in this battlefield. Jian Wushuang, Master of the Samsara Temple, and Master of the Void Temple returned to the Green Fire Palace using the shortest time possible, where they immediately began gathering the experts of the palace. In the dark and boundless void over on the edge of the enormous battlefield, there was a large tunnel carved into the dark and boundless void, and at the end of it was an ancient and immense spaceship slowly traveling along it. There was an impressively vast hall in the center of the spaceship. Inside, a devilishly handsome young man dressed in a luxurious golden robe reclined on a golden throne. Faint golden lights were glinting in his pupils. He was currently wearing a strange smile. Jian Wushuang. Interesting. I never thought there'd be such an exceptional talent residing in the tiny Green Fire world. He's only a Dao Master but possesses the unparalleled battle strength of a Universe Master. I've never even heard of something like this. This youngster's potential is certainly unpredictable. What a pity that he's unwilling to be my disciple. If that's the case, I must eliminate such an exceptional talent like him at the roots. The handsome young man's eyes gradually turned cold. Jiao Shi, the man called. The cool and elegant woman standing quietly at the end of the hall looked over. Lord Jin Feng, she answered. The handsome man in a golden robe was the monarch of Jin Kingdom. His real name was Jin Feng. Most experts of the Jin Kingdom addressed him as Lord Monarch. Jiao Shi was the only one to call him Lord Jin Feng. This showed that she did not belong to the kingdom. How much longer will it take for my spaceship to arrive to that battlefield? The monarch of Jin Kingdom asked. The void here is rather strange. Moreover, the Green Fire world can use this void to arrange formations. In fact, their people are currently using their grand formation to obstruct the speed of the spaceship. There's nothing I can do but to steer the spaceship slowly through this tunnel. I think it'll take us at least another 80 years to reach there, Jiushi said. 80 years is a pretty long time, the monarch of Jin Kingdom said, frowning. He had spent a whopping 5 million years to enter that battlefield, so 8 short years ought to be nothing to him. He was only this anxious after seeing an existence in the green fire world that would pose a great threat to him. This existence was none other than Jian Wushuang. That Jian Wushang is extraordinarily talented. He now possesses the unparalleled battle strength of a universe master, but once he makes yet another breakthrough to the holy master level, his strength would rise significantly. He might be able to contend with me then, and that would make my task of destroying the green fire world a lot more difficult. 80 years seem like a short time, but a talent like him might be able to find a breakthrough opportunity in that time. The monarch of Jin Kingdom sighed. He then asked Jiushi, can't we use the speed of the spaceship to forcefully pass through this tunnel? No. Jiushi shook her head. It took me a bit of luck to create this tunnel itself, for it's not an easy task. I can't guarantee that this tunnel is stable. If we force our way through, this tunnel might collapse on us and all our efforts will be in vain. If there's nothing we can do, then so be it. The monarch of Jin Kingdom shook his head before looking at Jiushi again. Have you prepared what I told you to prepare? Of course. The preparations are finally ready after spending hundreds of thousands of years and sacrificing much, Jiushi answered with a laugh. Very well. Then we'll allow the green fire world to exist for another 8 years. 80 years later, no one will be able to stop me. The monarch of Jin Kingdom's evil aura rose sharply. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.